Good morning.
Afternoon.
Or afternoon.
Sorry.
Thank you. It is Wednesday, August 24th. The time is 12:01, and we are here for a workshop. Today, the purpose of the workshop is agenda review for August 30th for the regular agenda. 2, we have the supporting our students on time graduation for 60 minutes. Healthy live-in collaboration for 30 minutes, the superintendent's evaluation instrument for 45 minutes, and prioritizing workshop topics for 30. So we're going to go ahead and begin with the agenda review. And remember, when we speak again, we still have to push that button and turn it on and off as we proceed through the day. Dr. Bernier, I'm going to turn this over to you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, happy to continue with the agenda review. At our last workshop, we had some discussion because we had Neola here. I want to make sure it doesn't apply to this particular workshop. When we finished the last workshop and we ran out of time for Neola, we did agenda review at the first part of the meeting. There was some consensus amongst the board that we wanted to move agenda review to the end of the meeting so as to save time for the items that are prepared. I just want to, if that's the case, I can move forward with the agenda review. I'm certainly prepared, but I want to also be straightforward and do what is the will of the board.
As it stands today, I would go ahead and keep the agenda as written.
10-4.
Thank you.
So we had several questions submitted regarding the agenda coming up for August 30th. One was to explain the reason why the state requires the annual education equity report. That is item F1, and is it for accountability purposes? The Educational Equity Act and other federal state legislation such as Title IX, Title VII, Title II, and the Americans with Disabilities Act, just to name a few, do require us to go ahead and monitor public school districts' compliance with various statutes and rules. This report enables the Florida Department of Education of Equal Educational Opportunity, or the OEEO, to monitor and ensure the adherence to the law's provisions and equitably distributed educational resources. So this is a state report required by the state to make sure that the district is in compliance with variable sections, education rules, and titles to ensure that we're doing those on time and in a formatted manner that all the districts report this information. The follow-up question is, why is it behind a year? The report is not behind a year. It's the 21-22. It's always done after the year closes, so it's a fiscal year report, not an annual year report. So it begins, so our new report is beginning right now, if you will. We'll carry that into 2023, and this time next year we will make another equity report as required by the state.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions regarding that? No? Shannon, next please.
The other item is from the consent agenda for academic services, G2, approval of the jobs for Florida graduates renewal MOU for South Fort Myers High School. There was a question about whether there was a typo regarding the amount. There was an error. There was an extra decimal point and 2 extra zeros. The amount the grant will provide is $135,000 to South Fort Myers High School, and the error was corrected prior to posting.
Thank you. And any questions regarding that one? No? Please.
G3 was in response to the approval to renew the annual contract for the Pace Center for Girls Incorporated, and the question was, do we provide transportation? And the very short response to that is yes, we do.
Any questions regarding that? None? Thank you.
G5, approval of the 2023 Career Dual Enrollment Articulation Agreement with the School Board of Hendry County. Can you explain how this impacts our district with Hendry County as Hendry County is reimbursing the Lee Technical Colleges? So the response is there is no impact to the district. What we do is we average the total for the past several years based upon what Hendry School County District pays the technical colleges for their students that dual enroll. So the fiscal number is an average that Hendry County actually reimburses the school district for. So there's been some question on a number of items. I'm going to group a few of them here in a minute about why this, while there's a dollar figure in the agenda item, why isn't it a budgeted item? This is because budgeted items are where we already have dollars set aside, or you're setting aside for expenses. This is actually a reimbursement to the school district. This will actually be money that we collect from Hendry County.
Are there any questions?
No.
Thank you, Dr. Bernier.
Next one is from the consent agenda from Human Resources, approval to adopt a job description for the Operations Division. There was questions about where are the changes or what's updated here. This was fully briefed on June 28th, 2022. We went through all the changes at this time, so that job description has moved forward on this agenda as a complete item without red line strikes. But I'm happy to have Mr. Dodick respond to this particular board member and provide them with the changes that we made so that they have that red line a second time.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding the consent item? Ms. Vaughn? Do you see the red dot?
Yeah, there we go. Has there been any progress on that organizational chart? You'll find I'm a bit obsessive about that thing.
This one wouldn't require an organizational chart. This is, you'll recall, as a reclassification of an existing position. So this is the same reporting structure that exists in operations. When you were looking potentially at the job descriptions we reviewed at the last work session, last briefing, sorry, that will require an organizational chart. Those items are not coming up on the 30th agenda. They'll come up in the meeting in September, and an organizational chart will be provided with those job descriptions.
Is this a title change for this particular job?
It's not necessarily a title change. It is a reclassification of a position to make it reflective of the duties and responsibilities this individual is doing during their work.
Okay, great, thank you.
And, Ms. Fisher?
I did not I did not submit this question, but I do have a question on I-1, administrative personnel. Under transfer and change of assignment, we have someone from an assistant principal to student services coordinator threat assessment, and someone from staffing, talent, and management, assistant director to payroll director. And I was just wondering about the resumes and qualifications of those people changing those positions.
The first position is a focus position. We've had some individual one-on-ones information provided to you. This goes back a number of one-on-ones ago, where we discussed the fact that there was a specific federal grant that required us to put somebody in charge of the student services coordinator for threat assessment. We knew potentially that would impact a school, and it has, but that is the assistant principal who we feel is best suited to take the position in this new role in student services. It's a grant-funded position and now a requirement under state law.
Okay, and can the board see the qualifications or the resume of that person?
Of course you can.
Okay, thank you. And then the same with the payroll director.
Certainly. The payroll director is actually an interesting choice. I reviewed this with Amy Desamore very, very carefully and closely. The gentleman who's moving forward to payroll systems has exactly the technical expertise necessary. As you know, payroll is no longer a wonderful just 10-key system where you type things in. It's heavily reliant upon our PeopleSoft software, and this person has an extensive background in PeopleSoft and software development. He may be moving from a human resources position to that job, but he has a background, and he'll be happy to provide that resume as well.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions regarding this particular item? Seeing none? Dr. Bernier?
If it pleases the board, I'm going to try to combine K1, approval of the fuel agreement with the City of Cape Coral. That comes from the consent agenda from operations. K3, which is the approval of the agreement with Donna J. Beasley Technical Academy. And K5, the approval of the fuel agreement with Fort Myers Shores, because generally the questions are all the same. Why is this not budgeted either? These, again, are not budgeted items. These are reimbursements to us, and the dollar figure is the expected amount of return for when the City of Cape Coral Charter Authority uses our fuel depot to help gas up their buses, or for when the City of Fort Myers Shores and the Tice Fire Districts use the fuel agreement with Fort Myers Shores Fire District. Those are opportunities for those individuals to use our facility. They pay for the cost of our gas plus 5%, which creates an increase in the amount of revenues the district is collecting. So all three of those, the fuel agreement with the City of Cape Coral, the agreement to help the charter school technical academy with their, in case their buses break down, we have an opportunity for them to borrow one of our buses at a given rate. And the other one is the Fort Myers Shores fuel agreement as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding this item? Seeing none, Dr. Bernier?
So the last one that I have is also from the consent agenda for operations K2, approval of the expenditure for service agreement HVAC single source vendor. HVAC systems, so why do we only have one vendor? HVAC systems with warranty requirements are maintained and serviced by specific vendors authorized to do the work on district equipment using specific authorized equipment. Using authorized service providers and authorized equipment ensures that the warranty isn't voided. Some HVAC systems under warranty with the district are required to be maintained by commercial air management using AVID. Due to the requirements to use this specific equipment and service provider, the bidding requirements were waived, instead issuing a solicitation. The DOE single source procurement rules were followed to authorize the purchase of the specific equipment from one specific vendor. In short, and for the public, that's a very technical answer to, if I have a train air conditioner at home and it's still under warranty, it would be wise for me to use a train-approved technician in order to keep my warranty. If I had a Carrier air conditioner at home and it was under warranty, I'd want to keep using my Carrier person to ensure the warranty. So this is not a single source vendor. It's a requirement to keep the work that we've done and the equipment we've put in place using a qualified vendor who is approved by the Department of Education to do the work so we don't violate our warranties. Those are all the comments and questions I have at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I still see, okay, because you pulled the Beasley with that and you pulled the district. I see what you just did. Thank you. Ms. Gittens?
What you just said. Thank you. Good afternoon. So Superintendent, the thing that was confusing to me on that vendor piece was if I use handy dandy HVAC to put in my system, wouldn't I have a service agreement with handy dandy as opposed to with Acme? I mean, that's where I was confused. Is this a different company that's doing the service than the company that did the installation? Is that...
If I'm reading this correctly, and I don't see Barbara, I see Frederick's with us. Frederick can come to the podium and correct me where I'm incorrect, but this is specifically where an HVAC system is placed into our school building as part of a construction project. Those people place the equipment, but when you have to service them, that's where the construction end of it, the construction of it ends with the placement of the equipment. What's transferred to us now as the owner of the equipment is the warranty piece. Frederick. You may have to go to the main podium.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon. Frederick Ross, Executive Director of Operations. To your question, Board Member Gittens, this company is the local authorized reseller of these items. So in order to get the manufactured part, you have to purchase from the local authorized rep. And this is our local authorized rep here in Fort Myers.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, were there any other questions regarding any of this? Okay, seeing none, Thank you. We will then move forward to our next item on the agenda, supporting our students for on-time graduation. Dr. Bernier is the next one.
Madam Chair, members of the board, happy to welcome to the presentation area Dr. Jeff Spiro, Mr. Clayton Simmons, Ms. Candace Alvovedo, and Ms. Lori Brooks. They have been working hard. This is a request that you made initially when we were having some discussion about Acceleration Academy and what we do to help support our young people as they move, not only beginning in kindergarten, but all the way through the K-12 system and supporting them towards graduation. Additionally, you'll see some additional slides as promised related to the process we are currently underway and almost completed with Acceleration Academy for their services beginning potentially as early as January of 2023. I'll turn it over to Dr. Spiro and team.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, board. With me today, as Dr. Bernier said, I have Ms. Lori Brooks, Ms. Candace Alvovedo, and Mr. Clayton Simmons, and we are here to talk to you about how do we support our students to ensure that they graduate on time. We're going to talk this morning a little bit about, we're going to start large. We're going to talk a little bit about the work that we've done with the Carnegie Institute, and Dr. Bernier is going to give you a little snapshot on what that work looks like, which actually began this conversation over the summer. We're then going to talk to you about what happens in middle school, how do we transition into high school, and then while you're in high school, what happens each year in high school to ensure that there are mechanisms and systems in place so that you can graduate on time. So we're going to begin with our Carnegie Foundation, and Dr. Bernier is just going to share just a little snapshot of what that work looks like and how it supports this conversation today.
Thank you, Dr. Spiro. As the board is aware and the public may not be, we are one of 9 school districts that have been selected by the Carnegie Foundation to participate in what they're referring to as the Learning Leadership Network. This is an opportunity for large school districts across the entire country to gather together. Our first meeting was in Palo Alto, California. I think for the people in the audience as well as the public who may be listening, I think it's important for everyone to know that the Carnegie Foundation reimbursed the district for its costs. This is a no-cost program to us. But they asked us to begin to look at a problem of practice. And the group that I took with me to Palo Alto began to look at a portrait of a Lee County graduate. What does that mean? What does that mean to the student who graduates, both being college and career ready? What does it mean to our business community? What does it mean to our local economy? But we also began to have a deeper conversation about what it also means to their parent. And that importance, and that's where we began a conversation about Naviance and some of the other things that we're so excited about bringing on as tools for our parents and students to interact together in a K-12 process so they can effectively lead themselves to graduation. We are looking specifically though, but just beyond graduation, we want to find out what are our graduates doing this Monday after graduation. But we also want to know what they're doing a year from graduation. We want to know, and we have great access to how they're doing in a university system because we have access to that information through College Board and other organizations. We know whether they're still enrolled and whether they're still making significant progress towards their own graduation. A number of years ago, the systems in the state of Florida eliminated Social Security numbers from its Students Records Division. That's an excellent move. Don't want to hold on to student Social Security numbers. I don't think it's the appropriate way to identify students. We have a student numbering system. But one of the advantages of a large system like this getting together in 9 large school districts all being in the same room is we're going to leverage the Carnegie Foundation to help us with tracking our graduates who go into the world of work. Is there some way we can attach back to their student number so that we can know, did they actually go into the chosen field that they were trained for at one of our high schools? Are they utilizing their micro-credential or their industry certifications? And are they still successfully employed 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 4 years down the road? We really believe that we have to not only make sure that we get our students across that particular hurdle, which is high school graduation, but we have a responsibility for determining whether our preparation is not only good for them, for our community, our businesses and parents, but also that they're continuing to make progress in their chosen fields. So that work is just getting started. We are getting some information about an October meeting that will probably be held in Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix did something very interesting. They split their system. They have a K-8 system with a superintendent, and they have a high school system with their own superintendent. And specifically, the high schools were separated out in order to drive additional achievement. And partially because of what we were talking about is the reason why they've asked Phoenix to host, because they feel that we could benefit, as well as some of the other school districts, from learning more about what Phoenix is doing to get kids across the finish line and then track them as they go into their college and they go into their workplace careers. So, and when I say tracking, I'm not talking about data mining. It's just simply an understanding of whether the kids are still enrolled, still being successful, whether they be in college, career, or their military choices. I'll turn it back to Dr. Spauer for the following slides.
Thank you very much. So with that, you just talked about the finish line. Where do we want to see those students wind up? And on the screen, though, we know all of the systems we're going to talk about today really live in the high schools, but the work in this district starts long before they enter any of our high schools. When we think about our Envision 2030 and our goals around kindergarten readiness and pre-K and building those pre-K providers, our pre-K students that stepped foot on our campuses this year are the graduating class of 2036. So when we think about them and their on-time graduation, think about that, 2036. Where will we be, those of us sitting here with you, in those 14 years from now? But this is really where the work starts. The other picture you see up on the screen there are first graders that entered the schoolhouse at Gateway Elementary this year. And that teacher there, one of the things that she did with those students is they each got to hold a crayon and they were thinking about, what do I want to do when I graduate? Where do I want to be? And you see a young man says a policeman and a young lady says a teacher. Mr. Dodick, where are you? We got a teacher up there. And they're our class of 2034. So our systems begin at elementary school when we're thinking about those students being able to walk, to read, and meeting them where they are academically. The foundation really begins in our elementary buildings. As we transition, though, and we think about preparing for that freshman year, we really look at what's happening inside of our middle schools and what do we have available to those students to begin setting that foundation. Over the last couple of years, we've really made that shift of the courses that are available to middle school students. So all of our middle schools have pathways for students to be able to take accelerated mathematics classes. We've moved to offering Spanish 1, the high school version of Spanish 1 at the middle school campuses where they're able to come out with that foreign language credit. In addition to, we've really built that partnership with our Leave Virtual School. One of the things I know we've had the opportunity to share with you is what came out of COVID is really crossing boundaries and breaking down silos, and we encourage our students to be able to get a jump start if they'd want with utilizing LVS. The other piece that we've had the opportunity to really expand on is our ACE Cambridge partnership. That is not only inside of our high schools, but it's also in all of our middle schools. So students have the opportunity, starting in the 6th grade, to take global perspectives. And that course is really setting students up to understand how to research, inquiry, problem solve, critically think, all the things we want our students entering high school with a skill set so they can take those advanced academics that really engage with that rigorous coursework. Then as it becomes time to think about their schedule for high school, our high school counselors come to each of our middle schools and really sit to talk about what are those plans for you? We have to have transition plans in place for our students that have IEPs. It's important that for our ELL learners, we think about the appropriate English classes for them to be taking at high school to be successful. Where is it they would like to go in their academics, taking rigorous coursework? Is that an AP, an IB, an ACE course? Or is it also one of those, we have more than 50 CTE programs in our high schools. So this is the first time that they're exposed to those different pathways that are available to them and really starting to think about where do I see myself post-secondary. We're excited about adding Naviance as this will help support our counselors in those conversations and also having our families beginning to think about those interest surveys with their students.
Thank you very much, Candace. So as we make that bridge from middle school to high school, there are a number of things that have happened even before a student steps into campus for their first day. Our high schools offer during the summer a onboarding program with a focus on building relationships with students. And those onboarding programs happen before the first day of school. It's a chance for students to meet key staff at the school there. It's a chance to learn about the processes and procedures at the school. Get a tour of the school. Get your Chromebook and your textbooks early. Learn about the clubs. Learn about the athletic programs that are available to students at the schools as well. And then also engage in team building. So for example, students at North Fort Myers High School were taught what it means to be at a pep rally, and they all made signs getting ready for that first pep rally. The picture you see up there on the screen is from Lehigh Senior High School. That is from their lightning launch, all of those students. And so there's a focus on building relationships and students feeling connected to a school before the first day even begins. But don't take it from me. We're going to hear from some students who just went through this onboarding this past year with a short little video.
Hi guys, thanks for joining me here today. So I understand each of you came to our freshman bash that we held before. Have you say your name and any programs that you are already involved in here at North as freshmen.
My name is Lincoln. I'm an ace.
Hi, my name is Leah and I play volleyball.
Hi, my name is Mariah and I do ace.
My name is Jackson and I'm an ace.
My name is Katie and I'm an ace.
My name is Aubriana and I'm an ace and the arts program.
Okay, well thank you so much. I'm glad to see we have a real variety of different activities here already, which is very typical of our North students. So the next thing I wanted to ask you is, what were some of the things that you did at Freshman Bash and or learned during that day? And anybody's welcome to start.
Well, we did team building activities in the gym and got to know some of our group better.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, we got to see all the different clubs and learn more about them and get the information about them.
Okay, what else did you guys see or learn?
We got to meet some other freshmen and make some friends.
Okay.
We also got to explore the campus a little bit before our first day of school, so that was good.
Okay, was that like on your own or an organized tour? What did that look like?
It was like an organized tour with our group.
Okay, anything else?
We also got to meet our counselors, which I thought was pretty cool.
Because that's the person you're really going to be doing a lot of programming with the next 4 years. Okay, good.
I like the part where we got to see all of the schools and
Okay, so that tour the first day was helpful. Okay, awesome. And so with all the different stations that you guys went through, as you think about it, what was your absolute favorite station that you had? Let's start here.
Mine was the team bonding because I kind of got to see like different people's personalities and so.
Okay, now I think it was in the gym, and that was the one that was run by student JRTC leaders, correct? Okay, cool.
My favorite station was probably the pep rally. It was just a lot of fun.
In the gym, you know, very, very much like how the pep rallies have been run here at North. Thank you.
Yeah, my favorite station was also the pep rally.
Okay, what do you think about it specifically made it your favorite?
Just that everybody came together just to cheer for our school. That was pretty cool.
Okay, thank you.
I was also going to say the pep rally.
Good pep rally.
I'm going to say pep rally because it was fun to jump around the screen all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's awesome. Well, I know a station we're definitely going to keep next year, right? The pep rally one. And then the last.
So that was just little snapshots. Imagine being a current freshman and call down your principal's office and ask to give some feedback on the back to school bash, and that's what those students did. So it really was about learning the culture and the traditions at those schools before it even begins. So then the school year begins, and during the first 2 weeks, which is where we have been, students in high school get an opportunity to once again make sure that they learn and practice the processes and procedures. There are class meetings held at the school where expectations are reviewed, where once again students have the opportunity to hear about clubs and activities and way to stay engaged in the school. I know one of our high schools, at South Fort Myers High School, the principal and the athletic director will walk class to class personally, making sure that students are aware of the clubs and activities because we want to make sure that students remain engaged in the school. School counselors and career specialists will go into those freshman classes during those first 2 weeks, and they will talk to students about graduation requirements. How many credits do you need to graduate? And what does it mean to be a high school student? And that's what happens during those first 2 weeks of school. And then the first 9 weeks are over and the first quarter comes to an end. So how are we supporting our students? Because after the first quarter, our school counselors, along with our assistant principals for curriculum, they will review the credits of each of our 9th grade students. And if a student is behind credit, they'll review the grades of each of our 9th grade students after the first quarter. And if it looks like a student is struggling, they will bring the parent into the school and they will come up with a student success plan. And that student success plan may mean getting access to Back on Track. Remember our after-school programs, having a formalized plan for Connect with Lee. It might be a change in a class. It might be some school-based tutoring that needs to occur at the school, or there might just need to be some in-class supports, maybe a seat change, maybe a way to communicate back and forth with the parent during that first quarter. So the first quarter is a focus on how do we support the students, especially as they're bridging from middle school to high school. Then the end of the first semester comes after those first 2 quarters, and now we have a focus on recovery. What if a student is deficient in their credit? What do we do at that point? Once again, the school counselors review all of the credits of the freshman class, and if there is a student that is deficient in a credit, that is where immediately we will work with that parent and that student to help develop a program to retrieve that credit. And we do that locally through our E2020 program. And our E2020 program has a piece on it called Concept Coaching, where students have an opportunity to have live access to a tutor. And I'm going to look at the hours. They have access to those tutors 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night. On Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7:30 at night, and on Sundays from 6:30 to 10 p.m. at night. So students that are in those credit retrieval programs also have access to a live tutor, in addition to our Connect with Lee program, in addition with our Back on Track program as well. This is an additional support at the semester as we focus on recovery for students who may need that extra support. Then the end of your freshman year comes and we get ready to schedule for your sophomore year, and the students at the high school have an opportunity to meet one-on-one with their school counselors to look at their individual pathway. And students at that point will once again get a deeper understanding of what those high school graduation requirements are, where they currently sit with their own credits, how many credits they need to graduate on time with their cohort. The school counselor will talk to the student about what is your plan, where do you want to go? We will re-engage our parents with our Naviance tool that we've talked about, and then we'll begin to schedule the student. Some students will have pathways for acceleration, IB, International Baccalaureate, College Board Advanced Placement, Cambridge, and as Candace talked about earlier, we have over 50 career technical education programs that students have access to as well. So the school counselor will work with that student and develop a pathway to meet their needs. So that's a little bit of a high-level snapshot of what happens at the freshman year. And now Lori is going to take us into our sophomore and our junior year.
Thank you, Dr. Spiro. As students become acclimated to high school through all of the services and supports provided during their freshman year, the sophomore year focuses on ongoing monitoring and ongoing support. Schools continue that focus on personalized pathways for students with continued attention to each student's career exploration and their identified pathways. Naviance, again, will be that tool, but it has to have the human capital behind it with the college and career specialists and the school counselors and also our teachers and our students and parents to make that a full-service tool to really laser focus this work on that personalized pathway. So the careers of interest that students identify through the work of their college and career specialist then drive the advising discussions that continue around the on-time graduation and planning for post-secondary education that will be required to access that student's career pathway or pathways at that point of choice. So that's the work of the school counselors then with those students on that, those individual discussions. Now in grade 10, the PSAT is also a key event for all students because as we know, the PSAT prepares students for the SAT while also providing data regarding students that may or may not be accessing appropriate rigor. And those discussions need to ensue so that students are encouraged to tap into and access and stretch themselves into appropriate rigor. And a student's PSAT, SAT, and ACT scores all push into Naviance along with their academic performance for kind of a one-stop shop where everything is in one place for the student and the parent to see. And then also as they're leaning into what comes next, that profile, as you might remember from the Naviance video we provided, contains all that information and how the student also measures up against the average freshman profile for whichever post-secondary institution they might be interested in attending if that's appropriate for their career pathway. So while school leaders and school counselors focus students on the what next and our college and career specialists, they continue interventions for struggling students so that we also remember to make sure that our struggling students, as Dr. Spiro articulated, have the opportunities through all of those intervention pieces, E2020 and tutoring, et cetera, to continue on track or to get back on track if they've faltered. The junior year turns planning into action, and you can see from the slide we've listed a couple of our high-level activities to help our juniors because juniors do need additional attention. So we continue that academic advising and credit reviews. Those are conducted by school counselors, while the college and career specialists work in tandem with each student to specifically support further development of each student's career pathway and interests and ensuring students are ready for the post-secondary education that's required. So now we're asking students and parents to narrow that focus. We expect our students to be broad in their interests and identified careers, and now we're asking them to start to really narrow into that point of the funnel. Where are we going to be looking as you are heading out of junior year and into senior year? So some of our, the career plans we're looking at for students might be an apprenticeship, technical college, state college, competitive admissions, military service. No opportunity for students will be left off the table because, again, it's about them and what they would like to access in their post-secondary career. So our role is to prepare each student for that future, and the student and parent events throughout the junior year that also help support those preparations and education pieces are District College Night, which is an in-person live event. It's September 19th this year. It's on a Monday night. It's sometimes on a board meeting night, but it's on a Monday night this year at FSW Arena. And we also have virtual college fairs that are also nationwide events. We have financial aid education events and FAFSA completion nights, and we have many school-level activities that take these district activities and further support them with parents and students on site in the evenings and during the day at each school, such as that FAFSA completion where parents and students can come in and they can actually engage in that activity. Typically that's October of the senior year, but we want to educate them ahead of time on the types of financial aid. And we also have career fairs and other events at the school level. Juniors also engage in the school day SAT and ACT. We have ACT in the fall and SAT in the spring. This results in a college reportable score for our juniors. And then we have also, again, the PSAT in the sophomore year, and now we're offering school day SAT and ACT. So we're prepping, we're identifying access to rigor and ensuring students are now provided the opportunity to take their college-ready tests and those that will garner them scholarships as well, potentially, during the school day. So you see on your screen a video that might look a little bit familiar to you. Last year, you may recall a presentation to the board about the role of the college and the career specialist and the impact this role has on students with their career identification and planning. So you met Carolyn Hutto last year, the college and career specialist at Eastleigh County High School. You also met a student named Doris, and we are going to hear again from the student regarding the impact of personalized pathways on her student life now and the impact it will have on her future as she transitions from high school into post-secondary career world.
This is where I really get to know the student and plant the seed.
From day one of meeting Mrs. Huddle, my career specialist, I was able to understand the importance of her job. She filled me in on important things such as scholarships, college applications, and FAFSA. Not only did she inform me of the opportunities, but she sat with me one-on-one, making sure I was filling the applications, scholarships, etc. She made an enormous impact on my future as a senior. I only wish I had the opportunity to meet her as a freshman. Most of the things I learned this year would have been a mystery to me if I hadn't talked to Mrs. Huddle. I am very grateful for her patience and diligence in her job to help me get to the future I want to live.
After you.
So as you heard from Doris, Ms. Hutto had a tremendous impact on her, and last year was the first year of this role being back in each high school as the college and career specialist, and now we're excited that our staff are entering the second year in this position, and they do have the opportunity to impact students throughout their tenure in high school. So as we exit the junior year, Mr. Simmons will take us into that senior year full of excitement and continued preparation.
Thank you, Lori. During the summer prior to our senior year, all of our APCs and counselors will review each senior schedule to make sure they are scheduled in the correct classes. Seniors who need additional support or may be behind in credit or need to achieve a concordant score may be scheduled into E2020 to retrieve credit needed to graduate. They may also work on Back on Track or Connect with Lee. In addition, we have 2 opportunities for them to take the SAT and 1 opportunity to take the ACT during the school day. That way they can work to achieve their concordant score that they would need to graduate. Seniors who are on track to graduate or are working toward or have achieved their ACE or IB diplomas may be scheduled in advanced curriculum or CTE courses to work to receive college credit. They may also be enrolled in dual enrollment through FSW or FGCU. Early in the fall, the Lee County Foundation for Lee County Public Schools will host a FAFSA night to assist all of our seniors in signing up in financial aid. In addition, our families have the opportunity to do all of their FAFSA paperwork through our Naviance program. During the end of the first, or near the end of the first semester, our APCs and counselors will again double check each senior's schedule to make sure that they are scheduled in the proper classes or have retrieved all of their credit needed to graduate. All seniors are then closely monitored, and I mean closely monitored, all hands on deck, monitored by all teachers, admin, counselors, career specialists to make sure they are progressing during that second semester. Throughout the year, our college and career counselors work with all of our seniors to assist them in applying for colleges or technical academies, and they also schedule colleges and universities, our career and technical academies, and military recruiters to come and visit our seniors to provide them with information. Towards the end of the second semester, all of our schools, K through 12, will have a college and career week, which is designed to get all of our students excited about college and career opportunities. This week will focus on soft skills. There will be guest speakers in our schools, and there will also be a shadow day. Our CTE students will also then participate in workforce signing days to celebrate their accomplishments. For seniors who have not met the graduation requirements for our May commencement ceremonies, they may still work during the summer to achieve their credit. For those seniors that do achieve their credit over the summer, they can then participate with our summer commencement ceremony held in August. Students who at that point may still not have graduated, they may be eligible for the Acceleration Academy or then enroll in our district adult and career education program. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Spiro to talk to you a little bit about the Acceleration Academy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simmons. So now we've gone through the high school career, and if students still have not graduated on time, what are their opportunities? And of course, you're familiar with our adult education program, which is through the school district of Lee County. We have that opportunity for students. And then at your request, we have a new partnership that we're looking to explore, and that's with Acceleration Academies. Acceleration Academies focuses on disengaged disengaged students, students that are not going to graduate on time with their cohort, or students that could be classified, quote, at risk. They develop a program of study for these individuals. They do one course at a time. They have extended days. It's a year-round program, and extended hours as well. They go up to at least 12 hours a day, and then including the weekend. In addition, they do offer wraparound services for our students for the help that they need, whether it's social emotional support, whether it's college and career supports, or military supports as well. So they work one course at a time, helping students stay on track towards a diploma so that the door can be open for them and continue to have additional opportunities in life. And so you will see coming at the end of September should be a contract. I know we've been working through our legal department, a finalized contract that'll be on a consent agenda item. I believe that's September 20th. So at this time, we are going to open it up for a superintendent's comments and then any board discussion on supporting our students and graduation on time.
Thank you, Dr. Spiro and team. Just real briefly to the board, I think comprehensive report regarding the things that are already in place, but what we know about what we have in place, we have to do even more. So exciting to hear about the work and the effort made behind Acceleration Academy in a short period of time, as well as the information that we know about working with Carnegie and continuing to build and develop an additional vision for how we can better support our students beginning in kindergarten all the way through their senior year to graduation and beyond. So I look forward to your discussion and questions of the team and myself so we can help you better understand and focus on one of our most important outcomes, which is graduation rate.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Ms. Gittens, and then Ms. Morgan, and Ms. Fisher.
Thank you. I have a couple.
Okay.
One is, and first of all, thank you for this, and it's a very, very good program and necessary because we know we have had students that have fallen through the cracks. So my question, the first two are kind of going together, but how do we find, track, and help the students that, it's like if you're going to start the program on Monday and there was a student that was already falling in the cracks on last Thursday, how do we get those that are sitting in the crevices now? And the second part of that is, who and what triggers a student success plan creation?
I think the teams have been extremely diligent, and I have to credit the academic services team. The first thing about finding students who slide into cracks really becomes a very deep dive on data, right? Beginning it at each 9 weeks, beginning at actually progress report time, and then each 9 weeks, that look of students who have D's and F's as freshmen is an indicator. We also know that our high school principals do take some look at their incoming freshmen early on to see what their grades and their FSA scores are, because that is also a potential predictor of not their ability. I think that's really important to separate. This is not about an ability to graduate, but that there are some processes and some gaps in their education that can prevent a seamless transition to high school and therefore prevent a seamless process moving forward within our system. As to what triggers a success plan, I'll turn it over to the team.
Thank you, Dr. Bernier. And I'm going to, if you mind, I would like to elaborate, excuse me, on finding students. Also during the summer, we have with our social workers what's called Project Engage. And we look for students who have been disengaged the previous year via attendance, via school grades, and our social workers over the summer make home visits, reconnect with those students, and connect that student back to their assigned school before the first day to make sure that they feel comfortable coming back to the school setting, that they have the supplies that they need, that they have the resources they need. So with our student services team, there is much work that is done over the summer to even help identify those students who have already been disengaged with the school district. And I think COVID put a big light onto that. So I want to tip my hat to Amy Clark, Lori Brooks, and the whole student services team for noticing that and putting a plan in place. As far as who can start a student success plan. There is a failure report that is printed each quarter. It shows students that who are at risk, our assistant principals for a curriculum that is part of their normal course of duty to sit with a school counselor, and I analyze that data and engage the parents in conversations. Conversely, a parent can always also meet with the school and ask to have a student success plan. That's not uncommon for parents to do that as well. So I really think it's a two-way street between the parent and school, the school and home, to make sure that we are providing safety nets for students. And Lori, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to elaborate on that one.
And can I say before, on one thing you just said about the parents, kind of takes us down another path of educating parents. And are they, how, that piece of it, educating the parents to know when to do this? Because, a lot of times parents don't want to say that their children are lacking at anything. No, my child is fine. So maybe Lori can address that then. How are we educating parents for what to look for and what to do? Because that's another way that things fall in the cracks.
Thank you. And I believe, too, in middle school, a lot of that parent education begins because we do have an understanding, students do, and they're educated on credits and the importance of earning their courses to be promoted to grade 9. So parents have that education already started, and then high schools do continue that through the open house events at the beginning of the school year. There's a lot of information shared with parents. And then I think after some of those larger information sharing sessions, a lot of it is that student plan of success that happens, the student success plan, when a student begins to struggle, making sure that the parent or guardian is part of that conversation because they contribute to what is happening outside of school hours with homework and appropriate spaces and time for study, and even sleep, and the amount of sleep a child gets each night comes into that conversation, as well as what we can do during the day to support them. So we share information with parents, and then I really do think that deeper discussion begins to happen about how we can support each student individually with that student success plan, because that involves the school, the student, and the parent or guardian at that time, specific to the needs of that student.
Is there ever a help group of parents that may, that they can collaborate together, that have students that may be in this, the success plan or whatever? And you can answer that later on. Let me finish the last two before they cut me off, because I know she's looking at me. I'm ignoring her right now. Two last things. One, how does this correlate with AVID? Because, having been an AVID teacher, a lot of this is AVID, which is, why Ms. Huddle was so successful at it, because that's what we did with AVID. And finally, do we, at this point, have enough of the career specialists, the social workers, the guidance counselors? Because this program is wonderful, but it is built on the back of those employees. And if we don't have enough of them, here we go. And I'm done.
Board Member Gittens, it's an excellent thought and a great reminder to our community that, and to this team, when we first looked at this presentation for the first time in Cabinet, we had just about everything on every single slide, including AVID. We tried to pare it down so that you would draw out some of these questions and give us the opportunity to brag about some of our schools who are so deeply embedded in AVID. That's, advancement via individual determination for those who don't understand the acronym. And really a great opportunity not just to help first-generation college students, which is where it originally began, but to help all students see the pathway and have the necessary skills beginning very early on and through high school to make sure that there's some consistency with Cornell note-taking, Socratic seminars, lots of different things that prepare students for the next level of interpretation and thought processes and that creative aspect that all students need to have, because that's what our community and that's what their future careers are going to demand of them. They're going to ask for them to take knowledge, synthesize it, and use it to solve problems. And I'm really glad you highlighted it, because it is another wonderful support that is under all of our kids. We also didn't highlight the fact that within our schools, they create smaller learning communities in places like Cambridge and IB and in sports and in clubs. One of our goals should be that every one of our students belongs to something, so that they have another set of peers outside of the regular classroom that they can association work with. And then I'll turn it over to the team to round anything out. But one of the things I think we also have to think about are, I don't know exactly what the name of it's going to be, so you can tell I'm sort of brainstorming, and I can see my team out of the side of my eye now worried about what I'm going to say next. But I think at least quarterly we need to establish something like a parental fair, where there's an opportunity on a Saturday for parents to come out. Maybe we host that at a local elementary school. We have everyone from safety and security through our mental health services, other things, so that people can hear more about what we're doing, and they could find out about student success plans. They could find out more about Naviance. And then the way you tease that out is we buy a big, giant, gaudy trophy, and then the school who has the most attendees gets to keep that trophy until the next one. So it drives parents, and what it really can help with is driving elementary school parents out earlier to understand what's coming at both at the middle school and high school levels. But I'll ask the team if they have anything to fill in around that question.
Well, not after that, but thank you. That is near and dear to my heart. It is one of the underpinnings, one of the legs on that stool that we use to support students. So we have that certainly in middle school and elementary as well. And that's where students really get a chance to get exposed to college and career knowledge in addition to other areas also. You asked about having enough people. I'll ask Mr. Simmons, let me know where we are with our career specialist, but I know we have some opportunities for hiring in the area of school counselors as well. And that's certainly across the district.
I saw some smiles when I said that.
Well, I looked out at Mr. Doherty. Can he make eye contact?
No one moved over there, but I saw a smile.
Mr. Simmons, career specialist.
We are in a positive place with our career specialists and our school counselors at this point.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'm going to move on to Ms. Morgan, please, and then Ms. Fisher, and then Ms. Patrica.
Okay, I think it's on. Is it on?
Do you see the red dot?
The problem is the lighting. Is it on now? Yep. Okay, very good. So I'm interested in the transition from middle school to high school. One of the things that concerns me is that students and families are making choices about which high school they're going to go to without knowing what the opportunities are for their child at that high school. They're choosing based on the name of the school, where their parents went. For example, South Fort Myers Welding. I mean, if South Fort Myers Welding is the draw that gets that kid in school and staying in school, how does that child know in 8th grade that they should be looking at South Fort Myers High School? Because I really think that for those kids who are on a career and tech path, that they may need to be making better choices, or at least have the opportunity to see what the choices are for them. The other thing I would suggest is that, so I'm thinking like maybe at the end of first semester, 8th grade, we do something to help families focus on their high school choice. And I know one district does this. We may be too large to do it, but they have, for example, at what was Harborside, I forget the new name. But all the high schools come and they talk about their curricular opportunities, their extracurricular opportunities, their CTE opportunities, so that people are informed and make good choices about where they're going to spend their high school year. I think you're doing a fantastic job in terms of managing and monitoring, but I really would like to see more thought given to what keeps. In 8th grade, 9th grade, they decide whether or not they're going to stay in school. In 9th grade, if they're in the wrong high school, they're not going to stay in school. And so I think helping them choose the right school is one of the things we need to be focusing on. Those are my comments. Thank you.
I'll let the team speak to how we help our middle schoolers make the decision about what school, but I think it's really important to solidify in public discussion for the community that may be listening that it is not about the choice of the school. It is about the choice of the appropriate program. I've been in other school districts where we slowly diminished the title of the high school to smaller and smaller font while we increased the size of the font related to the program. Because to choose the wrong program for your student because of the high school is an opportunity potentially to set up a student for failure. If they do not want to be an accountant, you would not want to send them, no matter what the high school was, into a program for accounting. Your point is loud and clear as to how we help our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders begin to make that decision and support 9th graders who may have made the wrong choice. I'll turn it back to the team.
Okay, thank you. In addition to the open house events at each school just prior to the choice window, I have to compliment Mary Lynn Rodriguez, who is our elementary and middle school counseling coordinator. About 5 years ago, she started having the high school counselors and representatives of different programs visit the middle school counselors during the middle school counselor meeting in November, December of each year. And the middle school counselors and program leads visit the elementary counselors so that as students segue from grades 5 and choose their middle school and from grades 8 into their high school, the counselors had a much deeper education in those areas of special programs because when families come back in, 5th graders and 8th graders to the school, they ask that school a lot of times, I'm stuck between two schools, I don't know how to decide, and our counselors had a much deeper education of the opportunities at each school. So it may not address the entire concern. I did want to highlight, though, that we're trying to educate backwards in each level, though, so that questions can be answered on a deeper level, and then also parents can be pointed to the specific person at that middle or high school where they can have deeper discussion about their child and those programs as well.
Thank you. And I'm going to go to, I'll come back to you, Ms. Gittens. Was that it, Ms. Morgan?
Yes, I'm done, thank you.
Ms. Fisher, then Ms. Patrica, and then Ms. Vaughn. And then Ms. Gittens.
Thank you. So as a former school counselor who spent the majority of my career at elementary school, you had me at slide 5. On-time graduation starts here, pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade. So I firmly believe that that's where the foundation is built. And I know that not all of our kids are with us from that time, so that adds to the necessity for the wonderful comprehensive presentation that you gave here today, which I hope we can share this information with all of our stakeholders because people need to know. And of course, as Ms. Gittens often says, getting the word out to all the people is the challenge. You said that now we are having high school Spanish at middle school. And so I wondered about, is there any plan or any thought of doing more foreign language teaching at elementary? Multiple studies show that early start language improves cognitive skills and academic performance. Foreign language study contributes to brain development and overall learning. And I know that when kids are young and they learn another language, they get it and they comprehend it and they speak it fluently. So I was just wondering if there were any thoughts on that. I think we have to celebrate our successes because I think the number of kids who need Acceleration Academy really is small compared to our total population. And I think that's another part of the message that we need to put out is how successful our students really are on the whole. And what prompted this comment was I had someone call me this morning and say, you know, our kids are not on grade level, they can't read, they can't. I'm like, you need to really meet some of our kids. You know, the majority of our kids are on grade level and they are successful and they all find their niche. But basically, I I think you guys are doing an amazing job considering individual differences and developmental differences, and I just want to thank you for that.
Madam Chair, the issue of, and to Board Member Fisher's point, the issue of foreign language education at the elementary school is a critical component. We've had some discussion concerning what we're already offering and what we will continue to offer. I think Lee Virtual has a process and ability to help assist, but we don't have any formalized plans. As we continue to develop those, we will bring them back to you as a whole board for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Patrica.
So a couple comments and maybe a couple questions. The elementary thing that Ms. Fisher just talked about, where do we stand with that Excel bus? So that our kids have, is that still a thing?
Yeah. So the Excel bus is out and about, so schools are signing up for the Excel bus. For our community who doesn't know, our Excel bus is another way to engage our elementary students in career and technical education. On the Excel bus, we have local businesses who have supported online interactive activities for our elementary students to gain a deeper understanding of career opportunities that are here locally. So schools sign up for those Excel buses and they are on the road, and what I will do in the board weekly update, I'll go ahead and give you a schedule of where some of those buses have gone to already.
Thank you. I have a lot of concerns about engaging parents. We talked about engaging them at the end of that first quarter with a student success plan. We've got parents who are divorcing and have no time to give to their kids' academics, or who have a sick parent and have to fly to California to care for their parent who's dying for cancer, or we have language barriers or cultural barriers. What are we doing to overcome the issues that already exist with regard to parental engagement, so that either a child can succeed without it, or just somehow getting the parent to engage? Having just been through this with my daughter, who's now a freshman in college, the amount of work necessary is completely overwhelming, to the extent that I missed the window to have my own high school child switch classes as he entered his sophomore year. How do we do it all? And how do we support the doing of it all for parents?
For specificity, I'll turn it over to the team, but we do it through people. We do it through how our high schools are staffed. We do it through data to make sure that we are checking. We make sure that when we have students who do not enroll, that we expected to re-enroll, we go out with those, I'm going to call them strike teams, we go out with those teams to find those kids and bring them back. We continue to engage the public. We talk about things like a parent university or a parent fair. We have your superintendent out on listening tours, encouraging parents to go to their schools and become involved. I've seen high school principals, middle school principals, and other individuals really being cognizant of the need for additional languages being spoken at their schools, and finding the resources, if they don't have them, to put parents in touch with languages so that items are translated, and Naviance is coming in 70 different languages. It is a Herculean task. FAFSA, to me, requires a college degree to fill out, and yet the foundation provides an immense amount of services in that area, and then on top of it, we do it at our local high schools and with FAFSA nights, because those forms can be extremely intimidating. One area that we still have to continue to get better at is with our undocumented children. They're less likely to have parents wanting to come and participate, so we have to find what other successful school districts are doing to help that specific population still be able to move forward in their college and career choices. To specific things that our team is already doing, I'll turn it over to Dr. Spiro and team.
Thank you. And Candace will talk a little bit about what our assistant principals, our curriculum, are currently doing. But I also want to let you know we have a service that is coming very soon. It's called Language Line, and that is our translation service that will be available to schools as well. So yes, Naviance is 7 different languages, but if we want to Zoom with a parent, we want to call with a parent who have different dialects, different languages, now our schools will have access to a tool that will allow them to communicate. And so that is an additional step of this umbrella approach and how we continually engage and re-engage our parents. But let's find out what our curriculum folks are doing at the school.
So to just add to what Dr. Bernier already said, is that people component. So our assistant principals of curriculum already right now making those one-on-one connections. So really having that voice and that direct line of following up students who already with attendance or tardies, and just reaching out on that consistent phone call of what can we do here to help, and that follow-up. A lot of them also have that check-in, check-out. So it might not necessarily be the assistant principal of curriculum, but somebody inside the building who's following up with those families and saying, how can we help support as well? Are we able to meet with the student and engage with these conversations to make sure the supports are in place? So it really goes back to those people. And I really have to tip my hat to Dr. Rivera. I know for me this week personally, connecting with a lot of families on schedules and the language barrier saying, can we sit side by side and do this together? And really breaking those down and working together to work with our families and remaining consistent, and that it's that level of we're here for you as well, and trying to monitor our own deadlines of if we know that's coming, can we proactively send ahead of time? Because to your point, yep, schedule changes, those first 2 weeks, they come rapid and quick of how else can we post things and where can we post them as well to meet our families across the board, because it's not always the electronic there. I hear Ms. Gittin of how else can we get out there to make sure we're engaging with our families in different means.
Yeah, because email, I'm looking at my personal email inbox right now, 2,272 unopened, and that is how I was informed about the you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's too much. But I've got a couple other things I want to move on to before my time is up. At the end of the first quarter, a child is struggling, and it could just be, it could be a mental health issue. So what are we doing for interventions at that point? Obviously, that include parental permission, but it could be something as simple as a child is depressed, not that that's simple, but if we identify it, then the kid gets up and goes to school and does better.
I agree, and I'm going to let Lori talk specifically about that, but I'll give you an example of one of our local high schools that has a system in place. South Fort Myers High School, at the end of the first semester, they're going to identify their students under the student succession plan, and they've already developed a plan for students to do a check-in every day. They're going to be assigned a mentor each morning. That student comes in, they check in with an adult on that campus to make that connection. No, nothing other than what's up, good to see you, maybe a fist pump, and they're on the class, but I've made that connection. So our schools are already thinking about not just the academic component, but when we talked about recovery, engaging, making sure that their pathway for students, that's just one example of one school making sure systems are in place. Lori?
Thank you. We are much further ahead in year 4 of mental health than we were prior to 2018. And with the youth mental health first aid training for teachers, they look at attendance, behavior, course performance, the way a student prevents through the lens of what's typical, what might be atypical. And when a student struggles academically, or they're acting out in class, or their affect is different, that will be atypical. And so our teachers are our first eyes and ears through this training that we're continuing to deploy throughout all of our school-based staff. This also includes every staff member in the school. It's not just teachers, admin, it's all of our support staff, including bus drivers, custodians, and it's everyone. So we're really building out that training these past few years and continue to do so. In addition, our school mental health team members, those are our school counselors, social workers, school psychologists, and licensed mental health professionals. They are looking through their way of work with students consistently, at what else could be going on. Our school nurses as well, when students present in the clinic. So when I say we've moved ahead, I feel, in my opinion, by leaps and bounds, because we're continually looking deeper, not just at, oh, you didn't do your homework, you failed a test. It's what else is going on, and how do I approach that child and ask those open-ended questions and respond non-judgmentally to encourage that conversation. So we're building the skills of our workforce. We have the Wellness Wednesday for parents to also have them on Zoom engage with us on topics related to mental health and wellness for their children. So we're doing that by practicing relentless incrementalism, but we're moving that needle.
Good, thank you. Physical manifestations of behavior to me are, that was like an eye-opener for me. Are they sleeping? Are they eating? If it's a physical manifestation of the sadness, if that's a message we could get out, that was an eye-opener for me. Two more things. I get the sense as a parent that it's either career tech or high-level academics, and I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think that if a child is moving toward welding or auto mechanic, they shouldn't be discouraged from the ACE science. But that has been my experience, so I just put that on your radar. And then the last thing is, to Ms. Morgan's point, encouraging families to tour every single high school that is available to them is, in my opinion, the best way for parents to find out what those programs are. Number one. Number two, how they feel on that campus, in my experience, has been a huge part of why that decision is made, because you might love welding, but feel very uncomfortable on that campus and not want to go there. It's been my experience that parents don't tour it because they know they want their kid to go to Acero, or they know they, so if we could find a program with an ugly trophy to get more kids to go to open house at the high schools, these principals do an amazing job of selling their program, not slamming the other high schools, but selling their own program, and that's why I have so many kids in so many different high schools.
Two quick comments to yours, and that is that there's a reason why it's college and career. And if I know the team is very critically aware of making sure that young people graduate with both options. Technical careers and choices to be welding or choices to choose a trade should also be preparing you for the ability that when you decide, and it's really great to be working with Florida Gulf Coast University, when you decide to micro-credential because you're really good at roofing and you want to start your own roofing business, you have those capabilities as well.
Exactly.
So it has to be both, and I know the team is deeply embedded in trying to make sure that that continues to happen, but as we grow, there will be some opportunities for coaching and additional guidance to make sure that everyone understands we want children to have both. And then I love the idea of touring schools, but I also love the idea of bringing our high schools together in a very large gymnasium. I have several high schools now rolling over going, God, not my gym, with a big giant tarp over the floor. That just made them feel a little bit better. Where they're set up with individual tables, and those open houses are then provided to parents to say, in January, this is when we're going to open this is when our open. This is ours in February, prior to the lottery, prior to all that, so that people can make an informed decision. In a sense, what you're pushing down to a very early age is almost that collegiate decision. And I encourage parents to go visit schools, because there was no place that my son and daughter were going to college without me having seen it and got a feel for where they were going and make sure they liked the environment as well. So I encourage parents to take us up on those open house opportunities, but I also encourage our team to find a way to introduce parents in other methods to know that those open houses exist.
And ensuring that the open houses in the same zone don't occur on the same night at the same time, so that parents can actually go to all of them.
It is a bit of a scheduling nightmare,
Yes.
but the point is well taken. We have to make sure that not everybody's on Tuesday night, January 4th.
And then the last thing I'll say is allowing families to make informed choices based on programs available in schools. I think lots of girls would choose the high school that offers girls flag football. Just saying.
Duly noted. Can I just make one comment? I have seen personally firsthand when I've seen a principal interact with parents where they're talking to them about their child, and the principal would say, you know, I really think this other school, they might be an art student, for example, may be better suited for your child. So I've seen it the other way as well, to really help guide parents into another situation they may not have even thought about, because it's better for their child academically. So I want to let you know that happens too.
Thank you.
Ms. Vaughn.
Okay, I have 2 pages of notes and comments, and I'm going to try to boil it down because I had so many responses to things that have been said. I think I'm going to go backward with that regarding the schools and the programs. Schools spend a lot of money doing fancy brochures and selling themselves. And I think there's probably a badge of honor. We're the most selected school. Instead, I think we need to go the other way, and as a district, since we are going to have proximity schools for our elementary schools, and I know we're focusing on high schools, but I think we need to get the culture and the mindset that although different schools in different areas have some special programs and some special reasons why a parent and the child would select that school, they're all really great schools. And to do that, and I love the idea that some principals and counselors have the courage to actually say, I'm not sure that our school offers the best, but this school does. Why not start with like a grouping of things? Are you interested in construction? Then list some of the, the masonry and the welding and the various things. And then say, well, South and this other school and this, they offer those. They all start with that and because a kid, a 13-year-old might say, I'm not a big school person, I love to do things hands-on, I love construction, but may not know all of the iterations of construction. And then, are you interested in construction? Here are some, okay, and the arts and which school, art magnets and all of those things. So I would try it the opposite way. And I like Dr. Vernier's idea about, having, I don't know, we'd probably have to rent out a stadium or something to get everybody in there. But I like that idea of presenting the different opportunities and really get away from that idea that it's a badge of honor to be the most selected. I'm really, really glad that Lori brought up the training that has gone on with all of our staff members, because I was getting a little anxious waiting to hear somebody to bring up teachers and coaches. Teachers and coaches are, and all of the staff members too, the bus drivers and everybody else, but teachers and coaches are the first line of defense on knowing if there's something wrong. And a child, it might even be parents are getting divorced, or their house was just foreclosed and now they're living in their car. I mean, so many different things. And I know we have programs in our district and we have people that are specialized for the homeless and also the kids that are in foster care. And of course, all of that are upheavals, and I'm glad we have supports for all of them. Quick note on the world languages that we were talking about. I learned this my last year of teaching when I was teaching the ACE language course. Learned a lot about linguistics, and it is borne out with research that at a certain age, the brain actually is not as receptive. I think it's somewhere actually around junior high. I've forgotten the exact age. I mean, and people differ. But there's so many studies that I read and showed to my kids at that point of very small children becoming, and maybe some of you have friends or family that have done this, where the kids are literally bilingual from when they first learn to talk, and they can smoothly go back and forth between the languages, which is such a phenomenal skill. And so I think Ms. Fisher brought it up, the idea about putting language courses, more language coursework, the world languages, and also let's not forget that they do get for sign language, American Sign Language, and for anybody who has the idea that they want to be in a helping profession, Or maybe, well, probably if they have parents at home that are hearing impaired, they probably already know the sign language. All right, so now to the questions. I'm going as fast as I can here. All right, so in the middle school, I believe you said all of the schools have global perspectives now, the ACE. Do all of the middle schools offer other pre-ACE, pre-AP, or pre-IB?
Team?
Other courses?
So I can't say all for the other, because there are some who had the pre-ACE courses prior to all the middle schools picking up global perspectives. They all offer that global perspectives course, so that one 100% across the board.
Right, I understand that. It's not what I'm asking, because, and this also goes to the question of graduation, a successful graduation. I know that when my granddaughter transitioned from 8th grade into 9th grade, she had done well on Duke Talent Search, and not gifted, but a good, strong student. But her particular middle school did not offer pre-ACE. This goes back a few years ago, but anything in pre-ACE. She struggled with her freshman ACE classes when she got to high school. Other students, I feel, had a very specific advantage to my granddaughter if, in fact, their middle schools had the pre-ACE. And so, again, I think as a district, as we're moving toward equalizing, and we have to, some of the coursework that we have, so that we can truly say, all of our schools are great, there may be some differences, but when you have some schools offering the gamut of these pre-classes and some that aren't, these kids get into high school and, I mean, it goes to the question of graduation as well, because if they're struggling in their ACE classes, they may have to drop those ACE classes and go to something else, or they might get a D in it or something like that. So can you find out how many of the schools offer that? And also, we still have the dangling question of when those pre-AP classes were eliminated from freshman, sophomore year, because again, that's not a good thing for the students who are taking AP Lang and Comp and Lit and Comp as juniors and seniors. Okay, the question on counselors was answered. Okay. PSAT given to all sophomores. I know this summer we had a course online for the first time. I think it was Dr. K, wasn't it, who was offering that. You don't have to tell me now, but I'd like kind of a mini report on how many students really, how many students participated in that. And my question is, okay, so you're offering PSAT during the school day for juniors. How is the sophomore data? You said, somebody said, maybe it was Candace, make sure that it's appropriate rigor. But the appropriate rigor, because we have some kids that don't do homework and they're not motivated in school and they're brilliant and you just don't see it. And we also have, what I've talked about numerous times, is national merit, and there are other scholarships and there are other things. PSAT does more junior year than just prepare for SAT. It's the qualifying test. And so are we pulling those best and brightest, the ones that scored really high, as sophomores? Are we encouraging, strongly encouraging them to take PSAT their junior year and giving them that proper instruction on what it can do for them?
Before I have the team specifically answer that question, let's go back to the other statement and this one.
Okay.
We understand the research is very clear on foreign language.
Oh, yeah.
That the earlier it's introduced, up and through the middle school years, the more likely the brain is to be receptive of that education. And for a long time, I think people in the United States have said we should be looking at what some other countries are doing to raise children who are truly bilingual, because that is a skill of the new workplace. No question about it. Same avenue regarding rigor. We know that the exposure to rigorous courses as early as possible, even if it's a stretch course for a student, will help produce success at the high school level and the collegiate level. The more we can bring collegiate level courses to the high school, the more likely young people are to be successful in training for their proposed and what they'd like to do as a career, as well as in their collegiate opportunities. I believe we're doing a lot of that. Is there room to reorganize, ensure that those opportunities exist system-wide? Or do we have to look at individual schools and their needs and their student populations, where we also have to be very cognizant of doing some intervention work with young people? So it's a balance. But I will tell you, and the team can speak to some of the specificity or respond through the board update, but the focus is on ensuring that all schools have similar programs that allow students who need remediation, who are part of that, you and I have had this conversation, that talented middle group that sometimes we forget about, are challenged, as well as we're working to accelerate the upper echelon of our children. All schools should be thinking about those three lenses and how they help support students at each one of those levels.
So we'll talk just a little bit about the National Development Program that you referred to, which really helps students that are on a track to be National Merit Scholars. How do they continue to build their skills? And we really tapped into a lot of different teachers this summer to work specifically with those students. And so this past summer was the first iteration of that, and that National Development Program that is run by the district and Dr. K and his team through the Academic Services Division will continue to happen. I'm going to let Lori and Candace talk a little bit about how to be used in the PSAT other than just that test-taking benchmark that you're talking about.
So I'm going to jump on from the National Development Program because it was used, their 10th grade PSAT scores, to invite those students this summer to engage in that work. We will offer all of those students who engaged, plus any students who would like to take that PSAT. We're committed to paying for those upper echelon students as juniors this year. So as Lori will kind of talk about the counselors and their role in really encouraging, we now have a cohort of students and their families who really engaged with us this summer that will get those personal invites back of, here's what the PSAT, the door it can open for you. With that National Development Program, as well as Dr. Spiro said, this summer was our first iteration, but we're expanding that this year to 9-10, so that way we're getting in earlier, and the goal is then to move all the way down beginning in 6th grade. So we'll start to see those conversations really pick up here. The goal is for second semester, we engage with our freshmen and our sophomores to continue to build that. And I'll let Lori talk about the counselor role.
Thank you, Candace. And really, Candace covered everything, and there's one step further. When we are advertising the date of the PSAT, we are engaging and encouraging those juniors. Plus, there is an opening for any junior that would like to take that test, but through the National Development Program, ensuring that the students that have performed at a very high level in grade 10, that they take advantage of that opportunity as well. So the counselors then and the assistant principals for curriculum, they work together to ensure every student has that personal touch point beyond the information being shared out in general.
And Lori, I'm sorry, I'm just going to add too, because I forgot, I would be remiss if I didn't say it, and going back to what Ms. Patrica said about parents and engagement as well. All of those families get a school messenger and a letter that goes home, but the letter that goes home is, I would prefer my child not to sit for the assessment. So we start with the, we've accounted for you, and if the family prefers for them not to sit, otherwise we afford that opportunity moving straight forward with them.
Okay, and I'm probably out of time. I just want to make one other comment, because I think a lot of people assume that if a student is so bright that there's not going to be any problem. Well, it's been my experience as a teacher of everything from reading to AP and ACE seniors, that sometimes those brightest kids are the ones that don't graduate, that have to be literally pulled through, and somebody needs to, I mean, there's a lot of ways, and the English teachers and math teachers and all of us that teach seniors those courses that they have to pass, whew, we get a lot of pressure at that time. So we learn, yes, stay in touch with the parents, keep on the kid, but just for everybody out there, being really bright doesn't necessarily mean you're going to graduate from high school, because some of them have been the ones that just don't. So, but thank you for all that you do, and you know, whenever you guys step up, this is my baby, the academic services, and I have to be verbose.
Message received, Ms. Vaughn. We do understand, and a great opportunity for the public to understand that there are challenges no matter what a student's abilities are.
And with that, a lot of great conversation going on here, but we are now 20 minutes over our time. However, we did gain 15 from the other, so we're actually 5. Just saying. But, and whatever questions I have, I'll send it to you.
Great.
Because everyone else has responded. And Ms. Gittens, I know you had something else that you needed or would like to.
I can send it as well.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Well, thank you again for all the hard work that you have done to put this together for us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, board members and superintendent.
Okay, and next then on our list would be healthy living, and it is for 30 minutes. Dr.
So as
Lee?
the team makes their way to, as they exchange positions at the presentation area, I'm going to borrow a little bit from Dr. Lori Brooks. She talked about how mental health was at a beginning stage and how we've grown into the process of supporting our students. I will tell you that Healthy Lee and the Healthy Living collaboration is not in its initial stages. It has been an ongoing amount of effort and work, which is really beginning to produce some amazing results within our community, gathering attraction from districts outside of Lee County and outside the state of Florida, interested in what we're doing to help support healthy living choices, healthy choices, and how we're collaborating not only as a school system, but with our greater community. So very excited today. This was a request of a board member to bring forth the Healthy Living Collaboration Project, to give you an update on the work that's being done, and then sort of hopefully in your conversations help us set a path moving forward for what the board would like to see us continue to do and continue to grow. I'll turn it over to the team. Seated at the podium would be Ms. Amy Carroll, Ms. Susie Hassett, Ms. Mary Graham, and Ms. Leisha Roy.
Welcome.
All right, my red light's on. That's a great thing. Good afternoon, board members, Dr. Bernier, Attorney Dupuy-Bruno. My name is Leisha Roy. I know you're like, she's back. I am teacher on assignment for health education in the Department of Curriculum and Instruction, and I am the chair of this wonderful Healthy Living Collaboration. The Healthy Living Collaboration initially formed in the fall of last school year, 2021, as a small group of passionate people within the district who joined forces as a multi-divisional, multi-departmental, and cross-curricular team to address needs that we discovered we've been attempting to address separately. These needs are to increase comprehensive health education, specifically nutrition education in this case, to increase food security, food production, and access to nutritious foods for our students. The Healthy Living Collaboration is a great example of how departments, divisions, and different instructional areas can work together for the benefit of students. Each department in our collaboration brings a unique perspective, expertise, and resources that are exponentially more successful when they work together rather than working separately. Our motto is that while each of us can make a difference, together we can make change. And our success over the past year has certainly proven this. I would like to take the opportunity to introduce my team. Thank you. I'm so glad we have Mary here for the technical stuff. Susan Hassett is an environmental education resource teacher in curriculum and instruction. Mary Graham is teacher on assignment in career and technical education. And Amy Carroll is the coordinator for special projects and student wellness and food and nutrition services. Each of us will be providing expertise in our specific areas of focus for this collaboration. For the record, this collaboration is successful because every single member of this team works together and has the ability to put our common collective goals ahead of what we do independently. Sweet potato boy. Okay, if you don't see the expression on that young man's face, he is holding up a sweet potato and he's a very happy young man. He has a name, but we call him Sweet Potato Boy because we love him. Okay, our goal in the Healthy Living Collaboration is to promote healthy minds and bodies in multisensory, cross-curricular learning that will benefit the school district students, families, and the community. Our strategic community partnerships are helping to expand our efforts in the implementation of comprehensive health, nutrition, and environmental education, and the farm to school and smarter lunchroom movements, which you will hear more about from the other members of my team here in a little bit. Thanks, Mary. Since the creation of our collaboration in the fall of 2021, we have been fortunate enough to be able to develop partnerships with a substantial number of groups at both the state and local levels. These partners share our goals and provide expertise, in-kind donations, and volunteer service. And there are a bunch of them in the audience here supporting us today. Additionally, since the beginning of this school year, we have numerous organizations who wish to partner with us as we continue to move forward. Thank you, Stephen Harrington from Wells Fargo, for showing up today. We had a lovely meeting yesterday. That's not in my notes. I have notes so I don't ramble. You all have met me. Okay. All right. Although not listed here, we also have a number of donors, including Suncoast Credit Union Foundation, Walmart, Lowe's, Tractor Supply, Tim's Tree Service, Hudson Tree Service, Foundation for Lee County Public Schools. Hi, Marshall. By pooling our resources from our state and community partners and our generous donors, we have increased the efficacy and efficiency of initiatives that improve student, family, and community health. You're on.
I'm on. All right. So our gardens do have very many purposes, and I am not going to touch on all of those right now, but I do want to mention that they do support standards that are cross-curricular in math, science, social studies, ELA, and health, while promoting problem solving and leadership skills for the students, and social skills that sometimes they need to grow. The cafeteria school-grown salads have been a big success. We know that when students grow it, they're more likely to taste it and choose it, and they don't waste it because they know it does take a lot of effort to produce it. So we have seen some great success last year with that, and Amy will touch on that more. Research shows that gardening is project-based service learning of the best kind because it's accessible to students of all ages and all abilities. We have gardens grown by ESE students, we have gardens grown by the most advanced students, and in every different way at the schools right now. It's relevant to anybody who wants to eat, and it promotes mental health in that avenue. It's called horticultural therapy. For CTE students, it provides practical experience for employment and leadership opportunities. Last year, we had 8 new pocket refuges go in at schools, and those are pollinator gardens that were supported by Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge as an outdoor learning laboratory. They offer a gardening experience even for novices, while they increase the productivity of your vegetables by 30% because the pollinators are there. Their mindfulness signs that go in will support improved mental health opportunities and coping skills as well. We heard reports from the Success Academy and from LAMP and from Buckingham Exceptional School that their students were provided with behavior coping skills because they went out in the garden, they were outside. It offers opportunities to connect students and families with each other as the families come out and support. And we saw that happen with Pocket Refuges at Tice Elementary and just last Saturday at Littleton Elementary. And the families started saying, hey, you can come to my house next weekend. When can we do this again? So it's one of those ways that they can all connect with each other with a common goal. Last year, FGCU, Mark was in the audience, hosted a school garden celebration at the end of the year so that all the schools could come together and share a dish from their school gardens and talk about successes and what they want to try this year. And they all gave each other seeds and starts. And so we want to see those communities start to grow throughout the district. Okay, go ahead.
Before we move slides, look at the head of lettuce that that young lady is holding. That's out of Island Coast High School's garden. Show me a grocery store, you're going to find a head of lettuce like that. So I get the comprehensive health education part, imagine that. The nutrition education that is being taught is offered by the University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences Extension, commonly referred to as UF-IFAS. We have several of those people, thank you, with us today. These programs were developed by the University of Florida and are completely free to our SNAP eligible students and families. They are evidence-based, peer-reviewed, pilot-tested, and aligned with Florida standards. The chart on the screen shows the schools that received nutrition education during the 2021-2022 school year and the programs that were offered. In addition to the classes that were offered to our students, UF-IFAS also provided adult classes at Lehigh Elementary School and Franklin Park Elementary School. What is it? Okay. Wait, go back. Technical difficulties.
I'm stuck.
Let's escape and let's escape and pull it back in. I'll let you do it. You see it? Where is it? Why is it empty? There we go. Okay, try that.
You can't whisper when the mic's on, just saying.
Notice we do not have anybody from the IT department on our team, but we would welcome that. Joe Jones, I'm the newest member of the Healthy Living Collaboration. Thank you very much. You're the man. All right, I just don't know where the file is. Joe just asked me if he could do a technical thing.
Should be the one I got there.
There we go. It's the previous one. That's not it. Oh.
We need to go to the cell right before.
Isn't that where you want to be at, Mary? Yeah, I think everybody sees that. So you're good. You're good.
There'll be technical issues with the career and technical education slide. So I'm Mary Graham. I work at the Career and Technical Education Department, and I help support the agriculture programs, among other programs, at our middle and high schools. We have over 29 CTE-specific programs that utilize the gardens, and this includes everything from our traditional agriculture programs at middle schools and high schools, aquaculture programs, we have culinary programs, veterinary assisting, pharmacy technician, and it doesn't count for how they partner at their schools. So we have schools that partner with computer science programs. They have programmable gardens. Lots of different groups are also involved in those gardens. So our CTE programs
are very happy for the gardens, gardening spaces, having rooms at their school to expand their garden because it directly affects their students' learning, especially their industry certifications. So everything that they learn in their textbook, they literally apply and watch grow in the gardens. Last year, we had 77 high school industry certifications, and that equated to about $49,000 earned in CAPE funding back to those programs. We've seen an increase in industry certifications, increase in student enrollment in those classes. So having the gardens is fabulous for students. We've also seen an increase in community support for our students. We partner with FGCU and Eastleigh County Chamber to host a career expo in agriculture. Florida Gateway College and UF now have a dual enrollment opportunity for our students to participate in water treatment operator. And the students get to see these industry standard processes at different industries or community partners as they go out and visit and take tours. We also have a lot of partners and supports, especially we'd like to thank Suncoast, who donated, had a significant grant that supported career and technical education, but $35,000 of that went to CTE Gardens to create an outdoor classroom shade structure and some resources for that. Students also got to take advantage of a grant from the foundation. They went to go visit ECHO, and they learned sustainable farming practices. Each student that went on the trip took home a garden to start a garden at their house. And that was great. Susie's team helped with transportation, so that was fabulous.
I'm getting there. Hello, my name is Amy Carroll. I work with Food and Nutrition Services. And if the past 2.5 years have taught us anything, it is how important health is. And it's more than just washing hands and social distancing. It's being conscious and aware of what you are consuming. So this time has emphasized the importance of nutrition education, and we want to use cafeterias in our district as more of a place of learning, or a smarter lunchroom, if you will, which is where the smarter lunchroom movement comes into the picture. And the smarter lunchroom movement is just, it nudges students to eat the healthiest food items available by implementing low or no cost strategies. So last October, right after we kind of formed our collaboration, it was Farm to School Month. So we did crunch events at 3 of our elementary schools in conjunction with UF IFAS. And a crunch event is basically you pick a produce item, you highlight that item, you provide nutrition education on it, and all the students together in the school crunch it at the same time. So we took it a step further this year because we knew we were going to be able to provide these elementary schools with lettuce from Island Coast Garden for the remainder of the year. So we had a contest with the students to name the lettuce, and there was one ultimate winner at each elementary school. And then UF IFAS provided us signage for our cafeteria so that we could brand the lettuce and continue to market it. So in the picture here, you see Island Coast Crunch was a winner. We had Learning Lettuce, Brainy Romani. So it was just a fun way to continue to involve the students. Like I said, we continued last year to provide these elementaries as well as Island Coast High School itself with the lettuce in their cafeterias, and consumption at those salad lines increased by 10 times. I mean, they might have done 15 servings a day. They were up to like 150, 175. The line got long. They call it the good stuff. And as you can see from that first picture, you don't see that kind of lettuce in the grocery store. So not only does this collaboration allow us opportunities to provide to this nutrition education, but it helps us to fill gaps in the supply chain, which are not lessening. So Island Coast High School Garden was able to provide us with over 700 pounds of produce a month, which equates to approximately a little over $1,800. So imagine we're only doing that at 4 schools. We have 84 cafeterias out there, so this is just the beginning.
For environmental education, the challenges of 2020 and COVID became opportunities to collaborate with our community partners when schools closed and produce was collected from the school gardens and distributed through families when they could come through the feeding stations. We also worked with community partners and gave away over 3,500 plants along with growing instructions, and our Project Victory Gardens website was a place folks could go to learn about how to grow your own food so that they could be self-sufficient. And that's still available and it's still being updated. Each year, environmental education provides professional development supported by partners at UFIFIS, Family Nutrition Program, and a lot of other organizations so we can support teachers with standards-based curriculum, the best practices, and the resources they need to implement gardening and integrate it into the lessons they already do, and give the students that hands-on support to understand the concepts. To further support these gardens, EE staff come alongside teachers to model the outdoor class management and provide consultation when there are issues. And schools are also encouraged to share their extra resources with each other, and we help to identify the needs and find a solution for those needs. Go ahead. So our experience has shown that the limiting factors for schools to provide food to the cafeteria include the cost associated with the equipment and the supplies, the experience in how to manage the garden and keep it sustained, and just people power. So providing a mentor to model and coach the teachers as they work alongside the students brings confidence and the efficacy and capacity needed to create and sustain our garden programs. So Family Nutrition Services provides an assistant manager that we are about to hire. So through cafeteria, there will be an assistant manager for environmental and school gardens who'll help oversee the safe production and harvest and distribution of food being grown. Our other opportunity that we're excited about is our new USDA Farm to School grant, and that grant is going to provide 3 new schools with the equipment they need and the mentoring so that they can produce food for their cafeteria. So last year, Island Coast was the proving ground to implement a system to provide those school-grown salads that you heard about. This year, we're going to support 2 more of the agriculture schools, East Lee and Riverdale, so that they can do that. And then each of those schools will have a school that they mentor. And so we are making sure that we know which schools those are, but right now Lamp and Dunbar High School have said, yes, please choose us. And I believe it may be Harns Marsh Middle for the other schools. So we're still making sure of which schools those will be. Those schools are going to be identified by signs that were made by digital design and CTE, and provided by Amanda Evans out in the audience for Lee County Department of Health. And so those signs will signify that this school is producing food for the cafeteria. They're part of the project, so that they can be really proud of it. And we want to make sure that all of our donors are recognized as well in this, and the grant will provide an instructor to go around to the schools to coach teachers about the best practices, how to be the most efficient, and will help them integrate these activities into their curriculum so it doesn't take a lot of extra time. We're providing automated systems that will just water themselves so that it minimizes the amount of extra time. We do have training funds also in the grant for the teachers' extra time to get equipped for this.
So I know a few of you at the end of the 2020-21 school year saw me scrambling on the very last day because the Healthy Living Lab, the equipment, and the Healthy Living Lab and the Healthy Fit Lab were 2 very, very progressive programs that were funded through Food and Nutrition Services, and with everything that was going crazy at the time, that was going to be no more, and they were getting rid of stuff, and I was chasing them down the hall, and I ran past Mary Fisher pushing this giant cart. She's like, "Where are you going?" I go, "Don't have time to talk, got to save the stuff." So I think that this has been a program that has gone above and beyond where we were with that, and hopefully we will continue to grow that. You'll notice on the presentation, there's a QR code that will take you to our Healthy Living Collaboration page on the district website. There is a lot more detail and a lot more pictures. What?
If it's not working on the district website right now, it's because it blocks you out. You got to get off Wi-Fi and that works.
Thank you, I forgot I did that the other day. I'm like, it's not working, it's not working. But if there's, it provides a lot more additional information than what we've done here for you today. But we thank you for having us and would entertain any and welcome all questions.
First and foremost, thank you to the team. This has been exciting. I was going to highlight slide 6 myself just to talk about that Etta romaine lettuce. I'm going Island Coast the next time I need to make salad. But I do want to take an opportunity. There's many people who joined us in the boardroom today. So if you are a partnership member or have been involved in any way, shape, or form with this project that is bringing not just amazing garden opportunities and industry certifications to our students, but changing what they eat in the cafeteria, could you just stand for a second so we can recognize you and your partnership to us? When we talk about community engagement and working with our partners, this is exactly what we're talking about. And when we talk about breaking down silos between departments, this is exactly what we're talking about seated at the dais with us. They have done amazing work. They deserve all the congratulations in the world. We need to get them into a PowerPoint class, but that's all right. And I know they're taking it the way I intended. So Madam Chair, I turn it over to you for the board's further discussion and any questions they may have.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you so much. I had heard part of this when you were in that one meeting that I attended, and I did see Riverdale is here because I see, looks like Dr. Ekin's daughter's standing right there. But to me, it's so important to make sure that everybody has food. That is really important to me as an individual. But this is more and more this has been going on for quite some time, farm to table in restaurants. So I'm really happy to see farm to schools now, because we can be able to sustain and provide for our schools. I just watched something the other day where a restaurant in California, he started off with a school garden, and now he has his own garden at his restaurants, and that's all he uses. But he puts it by the side of the road, so if somebody's hungry, it's part of the community, somebody can grab something off of that and eat. So it's making sure that people are fed and nourished, which I think is just beautiful. So thank you for this. Questions? Ms. Vaughn.
Yeah, I'm glad Dr. Bernier had everybody stand, because that was my first thing that I was going to ask more. It's okay, you did it. And the second thing is, I just wanted to say, as a former English teacher, I've always been a huge fan of humanities, because humanities actually does the same thing with bringing all these cross-curricular things. So you have, I was trying to list like management, marketing, nutrition, ed, there's science, there's math, there's actually even current events with all of the weather events that we're having, and population and all of that. So, so now this is on my list of another big program that brings in all these cross-curricular, and I think it's great, and I'll bet the more we talk about this, the more partners and I know I've done the tour at Echo a couple times, and I mean, we have so many great places around here in Florida to visit. So no, I love it, and now I'm kind of sorry that I live in a condo and my backyard is, I might have to go to the condo association and say, hey, we need a community garden for our kitchen. So we're looking to save money. We need that. So thank you very much. Great presentation.
I just want to let you know that you missed a discipline. We incorporate the arts as well. When we were at the Food Forest with Marco Acosta, where they do allow students to come in and pick the food that they need to eat, we had our celebration with North Fort Myers Academy for the Arts Steel Drum Band. We know schools are going out and doing garden celebrations and having students do artwork in the garden and provide artwork. This morning I was at Hancock Creek Elementary and students have painted all kinds of things that are in their pocket refuge garden.
Wow, all right.
So it's a whole nother opportunity.
And videos, because I just thought of, the restaurants, even McDonald's, where you see a sandwich and it's all juicy and here's this lovely tomato and I don't get that tomato when I go there, but anyway,
Talk to us after the meeting and we'll hook you up with where you could get a tower garden for your condo.
Really? I would love to know. Oh, I would love to know because we are looking for, seriously, we just had this thing about saving money with rising costs and I would love to bring that up.
You could grow lettuce for your whole condo.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. You are.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. It's always a pleasure. Ms. Gittens, and then, I just love you. Ms. Gittens, and then Ms. Morgan.
Love me now.
Okay, just a quick one. First of all, when I was at Island Coast, my room was right across from Joe's, then the aquaponics. Okay, so when the bell rang, we would run out in the hall and dance and do the fish things and all the stuff. But anyway, the Alva group, they were partnering at one time with Island Coast. Is that still going on? And how are the goats?
Yes, they are still partnering, and Island Coast was so successful, CTE actually at the end of last year set up Alva and Eastleigh County so that they'll be able to produce for their schools this year. Island Coast is going to have students go to Eastleigh County and mentor them on setting up their vertical gardens, and then Eastleigh County is going to help Alva set up theirs.
Good, because they're right there. Yeah, that would be great. It's a wonderful program, and kids just love it. So thank you for all that you do. And please get her lettuce.
I'm with Ms. Vaughn there. I want one for my house, too. Ms. Morgan?
So yes, I want a tower garden also. Thank you. But I do want to echo what Dr. Bernier has said. Watching you all work together and collaborate together, I mean, you've painted quite a portrait of what can be accomplished when people across disciplines get together and support a common program with their individual pieces. I think it's awesome. And I also really want to thank the people who came who are partnering, because I'm big about partnerships in the district. And it's important, we can't do this by ourselves. And so we need you to work with us, and we want to work with you. And I'm just delighted that so many of you showed up to show your support for this program. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. And yes, that is definitely huge to see this amount of people here for that. Ms. Fisher?
Well, Ms. Patrica.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see. Did you?
No.
Okay.
Everybody said it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Fisher?
Okay, so, thank you, partners, for all that you do and have done to make this happen. This team is amazing and truly...
Ms. Fisher, you have your mic on?
Oh, no. Okay, I'll start over, but thank you for our Healthy Living Collaboration partners who are here and for all that you have done to make these efforts so successful. This team is amazing. I've been working with Leisha Roy and the team for years regarding advocating for comprehensive health education. And if this isn't it, I don't know what is. It addresses food sufficiency, it addresses healthy living habits, interpersonal skills. It covers it all, and it's really amazing how these people have come together and created a model for us to follow. I had questions, but you answered them all with your wonderful presentation. And I just need to say that this is not only an investment on our part of time and money and skills, but it's been revenue generating. I mean, we've gotten grants, we've gotten support from the community. Recently on the news, we heard about the Farm to School grant and the donation from Lee Health of EpiPens to all of our schools. And this team is responsible for that. So this is what I've been hoping for many years, and welcome to comprehensive health education, and thank you so much. I really don't know what else to say, but I'm grateful. Thank you.
And Ms. Fisher, you are the champion of this. Yes, you are. Yes.
They're the champions.
But you have always been pushing this, so yes, thank you for that.
And that's why I wanted this presentation to come to the board finally and be available to the public, because I want people to know what the possibilities are, how this benefits not only our school kids, but our entire community. So thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Bernier.
Just an attempt to wrap up. This is an amazing partnership, cross collaboration, the community. But as we know, Mary is not running for re-election, and we have a responsibility, though, to keep this work in the forefront, because this is important work for our kids. I'm just watching my board members smile and laugh about tomatoes and gardens. I'm not sure if giving them all a tomato garden is an ethics violation. I'll leave that to Kathy. It has to be under $25, I know that. But just to go from such a serious presentation about graduation rate, where we're all amazingly focused on that, I don't want you to take our laughter and our banter as a lack of seriousness about this project. This is just as important. It's just a lighter, really feel-good opportunity for great work that's going on that supports children and young adults in a manner and means that supports their math, their science, their social studies, their language arts, their humanity, at the same time in a way that they probably don't even realize they're learning all of it. So I just want to thank you for that opportunity and that chance to make the board more aware of the great work that's going on to help support our children in these types of projects. And I look forward to continuing the vision of Board Member Fisher as we look towards how else can we incorporate health education into our classrooms so our kids are making healthy decisions about their food intake, their caloric output, and just all the amazing things that young people have to do, because we talk about career and college already, but we have to make sure that they're going to live long and lasting lives as well. So I appreciate the work of this particular foursome, the four horsemen, I think we're going to call them, and also the amazing community partners that have made all of this possible, and then the direction from the board to envision and to allow this type of work in standards-based, testing-driven environment to allow these types of whole child activities to occur, because they're an important part of children's growth.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ladies. Really appreciate you.
Will there be salad in the hallway?
I think for some reason we are missing, we went from 1 to 3 to 4. There was no number 2 here. So we're going to go to the next one, which would be the superintendent's evaluation instrument. Do you all need a break, a small break prior to going into this? Ladies?
I took mine.
5-minute break real quick? Okay, may we just have like a 5-minute break and then we'll come on, because that's the 2-hour mark. And just because we have Dr. Savage already here. You're there, don't move. And we are moving on to the, and the time is 2:21, and we are back to the superintendent's evaluation instruments, and Dr. B.
Yes, you're going to turn it over to me. I think Ken Savage is going to do a little bit of driving for me today. As you're all aware, but contractually I had to notify you prior to this meeting that my annual evaluation is upcoming. We have set a date certain, we hope, of the first board meeting in November. I think we all understand the reasons behind that. I'd like to be evaluated by the board that hired me. With that being said, there are certain pieces of an evaluation that I'd like to ask you to consider today. This by no means is the entire evaluation period or process or the entire document. This is simply a proof of concept that we are on a similar page related to the evaluation of a superintendent, and then in our one-on-ones and our private conversations, I can incorporate your feedback into that. So I'm going to ask Ken to move on to the 3 sections that we kind of envisioned. And again, we are utilizing the system that you already had in place for your previous superintendent. Some of those same objectives and some of those same performance goals will be there, but we kind of envisioned 3 separate sections to a superintendent's evaluation. One was district performance goals, and we'll talk about those more when we get to that evaluation section number 1. Section 2 would be superintendent goals. Those are things like the successful implementation of a Naviance, or what we're currently doing with our proximity work. Those are things that are not necessarily out in the strategic plan, and yet they're very important things that I have put out there. And now Dr. Ramirez has already told me that he's got ideas about how to do the parent fair, so we're already underway in planning of a topic that so those are the types of things that as I open my mouth and commit the district to certain things, those are the superintendent goals that I'd like you to evaluate as well. And finally, professional competencies, which I think will be easier for you to understand when we get to that particular section. So under section 1, these are district performance goals. These are aligned to the strategic plan. For lack of a better term, this is reading, writing, and arithmetic. This is graduation rate. This is HR metrics regarding fill rate and retention, recruitment and retention numbers. This is things aligned to specifically our operational issues regarding food service and bus transportation, because you want to have, in our conversations when we've been at the one workshop, we were allowed to go all together, although we sat separately and didn't discuss board business. We saw a great presentation about inputs, outputs, and outcomes. These would be the outcomes of the district. And I think these are critical components to bring forward for the board, for the superintendent and the public to understand that there are very specific objectives that need to be reached. The performance objective outcomes would be scaled on a 1 to 4, with excellent being at the very top of the list, all the way down to not acceptable. And that would be a score of 1. And we can talk about how those all conglomerate as we move to the next several slides. Section 2 speaks to the superintendent goals. I've talked a little bit about those. This particular year, I'd like you to focus, when I do my self-evaluation, I will help you focus there as well, on the entry plan. And have I met those goals that were outlined in the entry plan? Have I met those? What's the discernible data that I can provide? I have a staff member that told me yesterday we're at 68% of the schools being visited already, and having you met with all the principals. So that's a good start. I'm worried about that last, I'm going to round it up, that last 30%. But I have more schools today, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity at 6 a.m. to be at a bus stop in North Fort Myers to join a group of students as they board their bus and then finish the route with the driver and be delivered back to North Fort Myers. It's a bus driver that got really amazing credit on the first day of school, and I just want to meet one of our amazing professionals who do that work. But these are major priorities, major initiatives. They can be board generated, but those are the things we'll work on together as we do. One of the things we've talked about is a refresh of a strategic plan. If we've accomplished that work by this time next year, then I would want that included as an opportunity for us to look at those particular goals, and we'll set these together. Section 3 is a section I think is near and dear to all of our hearts. It is the relationship with the board. The management of the district, what's going on with instructional leadership, what's going on in the management of employees, how are we doing in terms of hiring, how are we doing in terms of increasing productivity and really looking to find operational efficiencies and other things. How do I align in terms of the district's work with both policy and governance? What's the relationship of your superintendent with the community, and what are some professional and personal attributes that you think need to be highlighted, or the areas that I need to work on? The 360 evaluation, which I provided information to you before going into the weekend, is part of that, helping to understand not just where you are with me, but where community and other stakeholders are with me as well. So those are the three main sections. And if we move to the next step, Ken, thank you. Overall, this is the kind of the way we looked at the ratings. We can continue to tweak these and develop these as we help develop the instrument. But the excellent would, and this is a phrase that you've heard from me in my interviews, performance would consistently exceed expectation. Performance demonstrates outstanding aptitude and proficiencies. Good would be the performance consistently meeting expectations, and performance demonstrates skillful competence and proficiency. There's a fine line there, but I think it gives you the opportunity as a board member to make your decision, depending on how you rate a particular competency and then how those total out, to give me an overall evaluation. There's a needs improvement area where I'm not meeting the expectation and the performance is consistently unacceptable for not acceptable. I'm sure that if we got into either one of those categories, having known you even over this short period of time, you would already be addressing those issues with me, and I would be well aware of any areas that particularly I was lacking in, and I've appreciated the actionable feedback that all of you have provided. So the evaluation scoring, if you take in those three particular areas, this would be my first foray for next year. That section 1, those district performance goals around student achievement and our outcomes of our district, would be 30% of the evaluation. Section 2, those specific superintendent goals that we set out together on that you would like to see me accomplish maybe outside of the strategic plan, those would be 40% of the evaluation. And then in section 3, the professional competencies again would come back for another 30%. So as you totaled up all the areas and divided by the number of areas in each one of the scoring areas, you would come up with an overall rating. 3.5 or higher would be exceed expectation. Meet expectation with 3.0 to 3.49, and satisfactory 2.0 to 2.9, and a needs improvement of 1.9 or below. These are all just sort of setting the overall aspect by contractual requirement to say I need to put forth a model of how I would like to be evaluated. I'm putting forth that model from the aspect of three main areas: district performance goals, superintendent goals, professional competencies, that then come together to create a total overall rating from each one of the board members, when we would work from there. I would propose that in year 1, coming up in this November, we make some slight changes to those percentages that I've shown you already. And that is because we have district performance outcomes, but I was not here to actually implement any of those. So my suggestion would be this year and this year only, when we look at district performance goals, while I would like to have deep and in-depth discussions with you one-on-one regarding where we are and where you would like us to be, that will help me set the standards for what my goals would be for this year moving into next. I would make the recommendation this year that we don't use that particular category. While you can fill out the form and you can talk to me and provide me feedback, it would not be an area that would ultimately score this particular year. So taking that percentage and then applying it to the two other categories, we'd look at my entry plan primarily and how I've been doing with all of you and with the greater community under superintendent goals and professional competencies to come up with an evaluation on a 4-point scale. I believe the next slide takes us to superintendent's comments and board member discussion. I've provided as much comment as I would like, but I stand at the ready, and Ken does too, to take copious notes, because if we can agree to this particular area as a concept, Ken and I can begin to draft using your former instrument and then other instruments across the state. We can go ahead and begin to draft an instrument for your review and eventual tweaking and approval so that we're ready for November 1.
Thank you. I'm going to start Ms. Gittens, Ms. Patrica, then Ms. Morgan, please.
Okay, thank you. First of all, kudos for such a in-depth explanation and covering all the bases and all. I think it's really good. I have a question on slide number 8 on the year 2. We've talked a lot about children first and having someone come in and help us to focus on that. And when I look at that 30, 40, 30, to me, the children first would be 40, 30, 30. The 40%, I mean, yes, we want you to, be in the community and do all those things, but children is the reason that you and we and everybody are here. So I would like to put forth that suggestion, and I don't know how that filters into all of the other categories that you have, but I'd like to see that be the largest one.
Appreciate the feedback. I like that.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Patrica?
Yeah, so I know that you and I talked about this a little bit yesterday during our one-on-one. I've had a lot more time to reflect on it, so I'm sorry I didn't give you these comments yesterday. I'm not clear on why there's a bifurcation between district goals and superintendent goals. I think that they should be the same. I get it for this year. We cannot hold you responsible for outcomes from last year when you were not even in the state of Florida. But going forward, I would think that if the superintendent's goals are different from and not somehow included in the district goals, then there's a disconnect that makes the entire evaluation bad, right? Like, your goals should always be in furtherance of the long-term strategic plan, which are the district's goals. So I'm not clear on why there's that bifurcation there. I get what you're saying about the work that Dr. Ramirez is doing now, because that's like a superintendent pet project, or not pet project, that's the wrong word, but I think you're going to understand what I'm saying. The proximity plan, that is a project, but that is a project that fits inside the strategic plan of the district. So it seems to me like it creates a disconnect within the leadership team. You have your goals, we have our goals, whereas we should all have these goals together. Am I making sense?
I think initially I can agree with you on that, but I do believe there are aspects, and I will go back and examine the strategic plan very carefully that we currently have. But in my mind, and correct me where I'm wrong, I don't really see it speaking to creating a proximity plan that rescues our transportation department from the current situation it's in. But it is a very strategic and very necessary goal moving forward, but does not fit into reading, writing, math, graduation rate, fill rates, those things that are specifically outlined as outcomes within the strategic plan. Can I say that if we can get to kids on time and 2,145 children are delivered every day, then yes, that will help impact. But if I don't get that solved until March of this year, we have lost the instructional time with that, and we really won't see the results of that type of goal that we've come together to say, Chris, we want you, thank you for bringing this to our attention, yes, go forward and work on proximity. That to me still is a separate goal from the goals that are outlined in the strategic plan. I don't see it as a pet goal, I see it as a goal that we've agreed together that we have to do something going into 23, 24 different with our transportation system and how we assign children to school, or we're going to continue to have the problems we have now that we've moved to a 103,000 seat district.
So pet goal was the wrong word. Whenever you bring forth a recommendation to the board for us to approve something, it is tied to a portion of the strategic plan. And I think that the student assignment issue is tied to the strategic plan in many different ways, not just one. So I have a level of discomfort. Maybe it's the way it's worded, maybe I'm wordsmithing, but I have a level of discomfort because it seems like it breaks you off from the leadership team in terms of what all of our goals are supposed to be together.
I am more than comfortable, and I'll defer to other board members as we continue to talk. I came into this discussion wide open. So if there's a belief that those other projects that come organically that need to be solved and need to be worked on, if we can fit them in, they can all fit under one umbrella. I just want to recognize that sometimes there's work that's really important that has to get done that isn't always directly alignable to the strategic plan. And I think we have to find an avenue to, maybe contained in the same category, but we have to find an avenue for me to be able to address that these are also things that I accomplished while I was working on reading, writing, and math and other things.
Okay. All right. The other thing is, I have a level of discomfort with the instrument being written and created by staff without a board member on behalf of the board also being engaged in that process. So to me, what you're doing here is saying, here's the concept, do you approve it? Yes. And then you'll write the instrument and come to us and say, this is the instrument, do you approve it? That's not how we've done the writing of these instruments in the past. The creation of these instruments has involved a board member working with staff to create the document. Okay, this is my turn to talk. I'm just talking about what has happened in the past and the level of comfort that I have with that. I fear that if we do it the other way, then we're going to sit here for 2 hours and wordsmith the words that are in the document, as opposed to us choosing a board member and saying, hey, you work with Dr. Ramirez or whoever it is, so that this is our instrument to evaluate you. We are the employer. And while employees should have some input into like job descriptions, for example, ultimately it's the employer that writes it. So I just have a little bit of discomfort with that. The rubric format to me is really, really important. I think it keeps us honest. It forces me at least to sort of peel away any personal feelings that might be involved and allows me to focus really on the nuts and bolts of what is being evaluated. So the rubric format is really important to me. And then finally, a little bit unrelated, you said something about discussing district goals with us in one-on-ones. I'm more familiar with a public annual evaluation of where we are in the strategic plan, what was accomplished, what wasn't accomplished, and what changes will be made going forward. So I just wanted to throw that out as well.
I will share, and then I want to get to the other board members' comments, but I will share that we are not doing away with strategic plan updates. Those strategic plan updates are critically important. They have to be publicly done. I have Mr. Dodig teeing one up right now related to the HR metrics, because we are into the first few weeks of school and we need to get back with you and the community regarding fill rates and other things. So those are things that still have to come forward. What I shared with all of you was, I think the process, and maybe it does wind up with a board member assisting and being a part of the process, but right now what I'd like to do is try to develop more of a metric based upon these kind of large buckets, bring it back again for some additional input and continue there. But I'll defer to the board chair and the other members of the board to get additional input.
Thank you. Ms. Morgan and then Ms. Vaughn. Please.
Okay, I think I'm on. First of all, I want to thank you for your leadership, showing staff a model that's designed to be about professional development and not a critique of performance. For those of you who've watched me on the board for 10 years, I have been talking about a 360 for 10 years. And it's not just how we perceive you, it's how your staff perceives you, it's how the community perceives you. That's all part of your effectiveness. I disagree a little bit with my colleagues, because I read district performance goals and superintendent's goals as two very separate things. I read district performance goals as effectively the work of the staff in the district, all of the leadership in the district. And I view the superintendent goals as embracing the strategic plan, but effectively the district performance goals are the work of the district. So I see them as very separate, and I'm comfortable with the allocation as it is. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Ms. Vaughn, please.
Thank you. Well, I disagree with what Ms. Patrica said about the necessity of having a board member work on the initial piece. I think we absolutely are working on this, but there has to be a starting point, and if we think back to so many of the things that we've done as a board that involved any kind of evaluation, there was always somebody typically from staff, that gave us a starting point, and then we go from there. I would say this is going to need more than a tweak, because that seems to indicate just something tiny. I like the different categories on here. I'm thinking, looking over, I'm looking at section 3 right now, professional competency categories. And some of these, I think, are important enough that they could have their own separate section. For instance, okay, so we have policy and governance, relationship with the school board, management of instructional leadership, management of employees. Really, I think all of us could probably come up with different ways to group these, but I think if I were doing it, I might, instead of having 3 larger categories, I might have 4, or possibly even 5 of the big broad categories. And then you really have, okay, so professional and personal attributes. Boy, that's one of those really subjective things when you get into personal attributes. There's some of us that like one kind of personality, and I mean, because it's going to morph into personality in some ways, in the way of work and that sort of thing. Relationship with the community, and that could almost go somewhere else, because how are we going to judge this? So, I mean, we're not going to send out community, even though on a 360, we're not going to send it to the whole community, and do you like Dr. Bernier? And I mean, because different parts of the community are going to work with you in different ways. And yet, what I really like is the fact that so early on, you've become involved with going out to various community organizations, civic organizations, and all of that. And I think that, to me, would be somewhere, a way to judge that. Does he go out to the communities? Most of us wind up going, at least a few of us, here and there to these things. How does the community respond? What is his manner of speaking? Is he talking to them or at them, or is he talking to them and listening and talking with them, maybe is a better word, talking with them? I mean, This is a piece where I like to hear what the board colleagues have to say about this, because I do see, Ms. Patrica made a good point about the district goals, the superintendent goals. But again, I would further divide this, and I guess that's.
And if I may, this is a first.
Right.
A first, yeah, like a first draft.
It's
Ms. McClung was always our go-to person who always
Exactly.
created these for us and then brought those to us, and that's where we had those from. So we had asked for this to take place. So this is us having.
That's exactly what I meant.
Yes.
Right in the beginning when I said we never start from square one. If we do, that's when we're here for 4.5 hours. We always have a starting point, and then go through it and make different suggestions. So anyway, those are my comments.
Thank you, and I think that's why Dr. Savage is here to help us guide through that and make any kind of like adjustments or whatever as we go through. So thank you. Ms. Gittens?
Okay, thank you. I made the one comment about the 30-40, the 40-30-30, but as you're looking through this on slide 3, where you have the 3 sections, district performance, superintendent goals, professional competencies, and to me, the only one that we really thoroughly understand is professional competencies because they're laid out here. And I say that to say the others are not delineated yet. We don't see them here. We see the professional categories, and, you know, like my colleague said, this is a draft, and I emphatically don't think we need to assign a board member. To me, that's adding another layer. This is to give us the bare bones of it. Then it comes back to us. We look at that section, we decide yay or nay. Then we move on to the next section of it. I just don't see, and I really would not agree to having one person. And how do we select one person? And who is that person? Are they an HR person or what, to sit down and to carve this out? I think it's fine the way we're going to bring it back to us at the different stages, and we as a governance team, as a board, look at it and put our eyes on it. We have our one-on-ones, we have all of that, and I think the process is fine. Looking at section 3 on page 6, professional competencies, and just being very picky, I agree with Ms. Vaughn. One of the first things that jumped out was professional personal attributes. I am not in any way, shape, or form in a position to evaluate you personally. You know, you work for the district, I evaluate this, and this is what you do in your job. You know, if you turn around 3 times before you come in the office every day, so be it. I can't evaluate that. So I would take out personal attributes, and I would also say, looking at the relationship piece, relationship with the community, relationship with the school board. I think the psychology in me worries about those types of words. I get it, but what if there's somebody you just really, you know, oil and water? And how are you going to evaluate that? So maybe we need to wordsmith and look for another word instead of just relationship, and also look at the word personal, leave it at a professional level. Professional, if you want to say attributes or whatever, but I just think we go back to the drawing board on words that may be used. And I see this again as the 50,000-foot view of what we're trying to get to. And as we get closer to the ground, the meat goes into it, and we all agree or disagree. That's how you create a process. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Morgan?
So we have a first draft. It's so hard for me to tell because of the, there we go. We have a first draft. I haven't heard anybody raise any objections that would make moving forward with any piece of this a problem. So I think what we need to do is just continue to flesh it out, because we need to understand what these things mean. I think each of these are important. Now, with respect to personal attributes and relationship, just remember that there may be dozens of people completing this evaluation. So it's really an aggregation of how the community, not just one person, sees the superintendent, how the board sees the superintendent, not just one person. But I think we've been given a lot of information, especially about the 360. I see no reason why we wouldn't move forward, and Dr. Savage has certainly heard our questions and will incorporate those into the next draft. So I'm all good.
So if I may, so with, and I think Ms. Gittens had brought this up, section 3, where it outlines everything, the categories in that area, but then it's not in section 2 or 1, because that's something that we would need to see, the breakdown of those, what that looks like as well. Ms. Fisher?
So, so far, with deference to all of my colleagues' comments, I like this setup right now, and I think that when we look at district performance goals, which are connected to the strategic plan, that's always a work in progress, and often impacted by the superintendent professional and project goals, major initiatives, his priorities, which he delineated for us in his entry plan. And I don't have my, okay, it's on now, right?
Yes.
Did you hear what I said?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I think that we need to move forward with this as a starting point. I think regarding the comment about relationships, it's all about the relationships with the board and with the community and our staff. So I would leave it the way it is for now and then fine tune it with help from Dr. Savage. And I think that as far as the comment about personal attributes, I'm going to piggyback on what Ms. Morgan said. It's a conglomerate. It's the opinion of many people. It's not only the board's opinion or one person's opinion about personal attributes, but they do lend themselves to a person's overall success or failure. So I think we could keep it this way.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. And I was trying to go back, I'm trying to memorize the other form, and I don't know if it was on the superintendent or if it was on Ms. Dupree-Bruno's, where there was a part on there which I know it kind of threw me off. And I don't know if it was a relationship with the community, and the question is how do we judge them or the work, how do they work together? And that was a problem that I know we had, because you really don't know how they're working. So with the 360, that's changing, because that gives us an outlook on what other people, so I really like that, because that was a concern. So from what I'm hearing right now is that, seems like the majority, that we will continue to move forward working on this, and that as far as the sections, the evaluation sections, we would need to have that further put out exactly what we're judging on, not judging, but scoring on, because we don't have that, we just have that for the one. And then, go ahead, Ms. Patrica.
I would say that we have it for the first two. I'm looking at the strategic plan right now, and then the second one is the entry plan.
Well,
right?
that's what I'm saying.
You look at district goals and you look at, so we are, it's not part of the presentation, but we had it coming into today.
Right, for the first evaluation, section 1 and 2, there is nothing, we don't have that.
No, but what I'm saying is we do have that. If you look at the strategic plan, those are the district goals, and if you look at the entry plan, those are the superintendent's goals.
I hear what you're saying there, but I'm saying, like here, for us to actually see, to put that on, no, just on here, for us to see, to put it together as we see it on section 3. So when you're looking at section 3, it's written out. Even though it's there, it's not here together with this. Ms. Gittens?
Just listening to Ms. Fisher's comments, I kind of want to go back and revisit when I was saying the 40-30 switch. And two things. One, I'd like to ask the superintendent his thoughts on that. And as I'm thinking it through with the, the goals and all that and the strategic plan, how much locus of control does he have? And I think that's what we have to measure. How much control does the superintendent have to achieve that? And which is making me think, leave it at the 30 and then the 40. You understanding what I'm saying? Can we hear from you, Madam Chair, how you feel about that switch?
Dr. Bernier?
There's two things involved, and first of all, I'm hearing you clearly. We didn't delineate district performance goals from superintendent goals because we were being cognizant of the number of slides in the presentation, at least for this initial foray. We did feel, both Ken and I, Dr. Savage and I, that district performance goals as it relates to the strategic plan, but it does have to be further delineated. Where are we with reading? Where are we with reading proficiency, and where do we want to go? How close are we to the magic number of 62%, which would get the school district rated as an A grade? Where are we with graduation rate, and where do you want to see me in a year? So, I mean, we have to start thinking about, and that's what I mean about having those conversations with you. Certainly, I'll proffer language for all of you as a starting point, but we'll continue to work through that. I think another piece of the district performance goals, though, is that is definitely accomplished through other people. That's accomplished through a deputy superintendent, academic services, principals, but it's my job to make sure that all those individuals are aligned. We've all seen circles with arrows that point in multiple directions. Right now, my job is to align those arrows, north, south, east, or west, and get them moving in the same direction. But I want that to be a piece of my evaluation because I also want to be able to use it as an accountability strand for those individuals directly responsible for those outcomes. And I want them to understand that I'm going to be evaluated based upon these outcomes, and these outcomes are ultimately owned by me, but it's ultimately owned by you in order to accomplish them. So it gives me some line authority down the organization to get them to buy into a strategic plan, which unfortunately in some organizations can be a plan that gets written and then put on a shelf. And if a strategic plan's going to live, it has to live somewhere in the superintendent's evaluation and in the evaluation of the individuals who report to he or she.
Okay, and can I say on that then, that makes me go back to the 40-30, and the reason is, within that first section 1, we're talking about your management skills, your, what's the word for it, your managing your staff. All of that goes into that, because you're saying if your staff does not follow the strategic plan and make sure it goes through, then it's on you. Are you saying you want to take that responsibility?
I think these are the outcomes at 30% that I like, because these are the outcomes. This is the work of, but goals are one thing to try to reach. Superintendent's goals, or maybe we wordsmith that to say initiatives.
Well, that's
the
what
initiatives within the strategic plan, that's section 2. That's the work, that's the input and outputs that determine whether we're going to make reading proficiencies increase, or whether we're going to make graduation rate increase.
Right. If we say in the strategic plan graduation rates are going to be 120% and we only get to 110, is that going to give you a 1?
That's up to the board.
Okay.
And how we write the metric for making that determination.
And that's what I mean. So if we set something that's way up here at, 50 feet up, and we say you are responsible for it, but there's so many layers of people and places and things that have to make that happen. Anyway, I'll stop, but you understand what I'm saying.
But then again, that's what he's saying. That's his responsibility to make sure that happens. So that's good management. Ms. Vaughn?
Well, I'm happy with the categories and what we have here. I think in the end, of course, the thing that's going to make it a viable evaluation is what we plug in beneath. So for instance, relationship with community. How are we going to judge that? Is it just going to be the superintendent goes out to diverse groups, or would there be some kind of a survey going out to community groups? In which case, I kind of have a problem, because which groups would you choose? And who would it be the president of I mean, there'd be a lot of things. Of course, maybe something might be board advisory committees representing. I mean, there are a lot of ways to go. And, you know, I mean, policy and governance, okay. That's definitely covered in other spots. So under professional competency, how are we going to differentiate that from earlier, how the management and does that make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to Ms. Morgan. I'd like to hear what she has to say about it, but I think that, I think knowing what kind of markers we have to base our 1 through 4 on would be, you know, is maybe the next step.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, Dr. B?
So I was waiting to see whether the conversation took us there organically, and it has. I think there's aspects when you look at professional and personal attributes, relationship with the community, I think you can get wrapped around what do we feel. There are ways to make qualitative measures based upon quantitative data. And that's what Ken and I have been struggling behind the scenes in a healthy way. We have been looking for ways to make professional and personal attributes determinable, those specific categories that would lie underneath those, determinable by qualitative results, numbers, facts. I'm not sure when we get it done in a first draft that you'll agree with all of them, and that's perfectly fine. But it should be more than I feel the superintendent is approachable, right? And that to me is that's not a measurable standard. That's a sense of how you feel. We need to find some quantitative measure for those, and that's when we've looked at other superintendent's evaluations where these categories can be done in that method and manner. When it talks about relationship with the community, we can provide an opportunity for how many times did I go out and engage with the community, and what the has he gone out this many times, that many times. Your evaluative pen will start with those numbers, but then you'll also have a feeling of whether those interactions with the community have been positive or negative. And the number will drive where your pen starts. Your feeling then will drive you either to the right or to the left. That's the goal of a good evaluation, not starting with the feeling and then looking at the quantitative numbers.
Right, and if I may, that's why I was saying I picked on community. How do you judge that? And, you know, realizing that you can't just do it on your gut feeling. There has to be something, and where do you get that something? But I know Mrs. Morgan has been a champion for this kind of evaluation. I saw her shake her head no when I said, to me, looking at the markers underneath would flesh it out for me, and I'd be curious on why.
No, no, that's not
what
I was
because
reacting to.
I've had very limited experience with this. I mean, when you're a teacher, you get that one guy that comes in and then the principal, and there it is.
That's not what I was reacting to, and I do agree with you. With respect to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you, Ms. Vaughn, because I wrote that question too. How do we judge this on that one? But I do think that there are ways of knowing, to quantify in that, as Dr. B said, because not only are you going out there, what is the partnerships that you're developing within the community? Not just doing a drive-by and saying, hey, how are you? But where is that, what's that relationship building? How is that working? What is it doing for the district? And I just think, to me, that's very, very important to make sure that we have a person who can be out there and build those relationships and those partnerships, because it benefits us all. Ms. Fisher?
Yes, I just wanted to say, one thing I've noticed is that this superintendent has a timely and positive response to inquiries and questions from community members, and that's quantitative, so I'm just using that as an example, but there are things that we can track and count beyond our feelings, yeah.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Fisher. Is there any other comments at this time? Ms. Patrica? Ms. Gittens?
Are we setting a timeline to come back to this, or what's the next steps?
So the next step is we have Dr. Savage has all the notes of everything that has been stated. If there's anything else that you may think of, please feel free to send it forward to Dr. Savage, and then we will we'll send it to you. We're sending it to, yeah, that way it keeps him out of it. We send it to you and you can bring it back.
Yeah, and Dr. Savage and I will work together.
Yeah.
The goal here would be on the non-Neola workshops.
Yeah.
To have a consistent discussion about this publicly so the public can see how it gets developed. And another reason for that is to have these open dialogues, to have and to make those adjustments and changes that you're asking for, and get to a point where we're all comfortable that when you're alone with the instrument and data, that you're not then questioning, well, how do I fill out this column? Mm-hmm. So we need to openly dialogue in these meetings to make sure that we are comfortable that when I'm alone with the information, I'm alone with the self-evaluation, I'm alone with the data, can I fill this out? So that'll be an issue that I'm talking about with you in September, early October. So we're going to use the non-Neola workshops to keep this moving forward.
So in saying that, I think we're looking at October, sometime in October, for this to all be completed, right? The beginning of October, I think it was, that we would have this completed, right?
It would be it. The goal would be the first board meeting in October, well, the first workshop in October, to be at that position where we feel comfortable with the evaluation instrument. I don't have my contract language memorized, but at the same time, we'll be conducting the 360 assessment as well. Remember, that is an assessment, not part of the evaluation, but it will help you and me understand where my strengths and weaknesses are, and I appreciate that aspect of it. Helps, those things help you see your blind spots, we'll put it that way. Then on top of it, my self-evaluation is due to you at the same time. So you'll have lots of different information, plus your own records, and then we'll be in a position, or staff will be in a position, if you want additional information regarding the entry plan or certain percentages that you would like, we can go find that data so that we're prepared for the first meeting in November.
Perfect, thank you. Do I have any other comments or regarding this one? Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Savage. Okay, so the next item is, are you sticking with us on this one too? Okay. Is prioritizing workshop topics.
I'm going to try to help Ken as he switches roles to a spreadsheet and share some things with you. We have spent a lot of time with your parking lot. We've pulled together all of Cindy McClung's records and data. We have organized that in a manner and means, and Ken he's been also working with chiefs. We've been trying to make some determinations about what we thought might be done, what we thought was finished, and then Dr. Savage came up with an excellent idea of utilizing all of you in a very simple format to provide us feedback, and I'll let him work through his scale. It's just an interesting way to rate each one of the items. Everything from, yes, this is a top priority for me, to I believe this matter to be closed. We feel like we got what we needed. So again, some of these items happened long before my arrival, so I'm lacking a little institutional knowledge. I'll turn it over to Ken, who is prepared to go through just a brief presentation of what's still out there, and then talk a little bit about a tool that we can utilize very quickly for you to give us feedback on each one of the items so that we can proceed accordingly and begin to schedule these into the meetings we have remaining.
Thank you. Oh. Go ahead, Ms.
Question.
Go ahead.
I've yet to figure out how to get to this. Can we have, for somebody like me, maybe everybody else knows how to do it, but what are the steps to find this?
Madam Chair, offline, I'll be happy to make Dr. Savage available to you for a one-on-one.
Yeah, right now you have it, and
Well,
you're going to show it, but just send me the steps, because
We're certainly available for any board member who would like additional information about how to get to where Dr. Savage currently is. We can do that in written steps through the board update, but we are also available to sit with you and make sure that you're comfortable in getting to the documents that Ken is going to
if I have the steps, I can probably do it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, esteemed board members, Dr. Bernier, Attorney Dupuy-Bruno, and just to make sure, can you hear me okay? Through the
Yes.
That's great. Wonderful. For today's workshop topics, we want to start by thanking Cindy McClung for her years of service in this regard, and I thank you in advance for giving me the opportunity to assist you today. As you know, we have a parking lot spreadsheet, and I noticed that there were items in one tab but not another, so in order to avoid the likelihood of a topic slipping through the cracks during this transition from Ms. McClung's facilitation, I do ask that you raise the issue if you feel that a topic that was omitted or comes across a topic marked as having been completed that is perceived to be an error. Certainly there is no intention to not cover any of the issues, and so whether you catch that today or as you're reviewing the sheet in the future, everything has been preserved. All of the spreadsheet tabs still remain from before, but I attempted to consolidate them. So if you'll indulge me, there's just a few outliers that I wanted to get resolved with you so that we can properly reflect those items. There's one item that was marked through Ms. McClung as requiring consensus, 2 items that were marked as pending staff action, 1 item that was placed on hold, and 14 items that were listed as to be scheduled. Now, based on my initial review and then subsequent group review at our cabinet meetings and with the chiefs, there are a number of items that were identified in the spreadsheet that will likely need to be prioritized. We'd also be happy to discuss any of the items that you currently have listed as to be scheduled, but again, there are 14 of these items presently, and the main issue that I foresee is that we just don't have close to that many meetings until the board reorganization. If any of these topics have already been sufficiently addressed, it would be helpful to diminish that total. However, if we want to proceed with all 14 in terms of scheduling or add additional topics, then our suggestion is that we take some time to prioritize those topics in terms of urgency. This was as Dr. Bernier alluded to earlier. If there are topics that are extremely pressing, we would want to get those scheduled as soon as possible, and then topics that are a lower priority could either be scheduled for later or even covered through an alternate method such as the one-way briefings, one-to-one meetings with the superintendent, or information provided in the board weekly communication. Our suggestion is that for each of the remaining items identified, there are 4 options. 1, we schedule the topic. That would be the default option. The second would be to put it on hold. Perhaps it's been outstanding for quite some time, and it maybe isn't the most pressing issue and could be put on hold as one of the items currently is categorized. The third option would be to close out the topic. If it really is no longer of a pressing interest because of change, the pandemic, or some other factor, then that would be something we would end as well. And then the last is an opportunity to defer the topic. Now with a new superintendent, to have an opportunity to bring himself up to speed, to meet with staff, to deepen that analysis of this outstanding topic, to allow him to then make a recommendation that he could bring back to the board of that piece. So those are really the 4 options as we see: schedule it as it is, hold it, close it, or defer it to the superintendent. Those are just the draft concepts to try to help make this a manageable and productive exchange. In some cases, we also may need to seek clarity so that the board's desire is clearly understood by staff, and that way the topic presentation can match the expectations of the board. A lot of times these were listed as topics, but there wasn't always a great deal of information, and because we do have folks who may have been present in some of those meetings, they're able to add clarity, but in some cases that may not be there, or folks interpret it differently. To assist in that effort, I have developed an electronic form that I intend to send to you after the deliberations, and I will ensure that all of your topics are included in that form, so in no way will this eliminate topics from consideration other than your conversation. What it will afford us the opportunity is to prioritize in order that list so that we could, instead of going through them alphabetically or going through them in the order that they have been typed, we could then address them in the order that you as a board have said, this is a real priority, this is an urgent focus for scheduling. It'll really help us in order to make sure that we are picking the topics that you need as soon as possible, and those that maybe could be delayed till, say, November, December, or January, or beyond. I would request that 2 weeks be sufficient time to prioritize the choices, which would place a hard deadline of September 7th, close of business. That would give our chief team ample time to review, ask any clarifying questions, and get all of your topics scheduled. The next time we would come together in September, we would have your prioritized list, tentative scheduled dates, and we could add or modify that as you see fit. I'm prepared to take notes and respond with board member reactions or questions as we attempt to process your review of the currently listed topics. Dr. Bernier, those were my facilitator comments, and I'm ready to turn things over to the board, but I'd first defer to you if you had anything else, sir, that you wish to add.
Just that Ken has developed an electronic instrument that allows you to see each one of these topics, and on the side, as an individual, make the rating of whether you'd like it to be scheduled all the way to, I think the matter is closed. From there, we would be able to collaborate that data, pull it together, and make a determination as to where these items sit in a board's priority list.
Yes, sir, and this would be a part of your next meeting. We would bring forward what you generate as a board so that it's there, it's information that you have. You've actually done this on 2 separate occasions. One was when you as a board derived your CIP values for the CIP. That was the first time you completed the prioritization matrix. The next time you did it was actually during your superintendent work with Ray and Associates, where you came back and prioritized, and that allowed you to have a sequence discussion. It doesn't bind you into any type of action, it doesn't close out items, it simply organizes the list in terms of that piece. So that's just to add that additional clarity.
Okay, may I know that we have, I can't open it up for some reason, and I'm really having a hard time seeing this one, but when you look at the people who have requested, should we not just go back to the people who have requested it? And because at that particular time, whatever that date was, because I don't see the date on this, because I thought that when Cindy was doing that, we were trying to make sure that we had a date on there of when it was requested, because that way we would have some kind of, okay, this was requested 4 years ago, 24 hours ago. What does that look like? I don't see the dates on this sheet.
Yes, that was one of the challenges, Chair Jordan, was that some of these had dates, some of them had scheduled dates, some of them had nothing at all. No, some had a board member, some did not have a board member listed.
Yeah, so the dates that I'm referring to are the dates that it was requested from a board member, and then we put it on the list. Because as I look at this, I see, like the first one that I see is, well, yeah, I still see it, Ms. Fisher. And that was the review of policies. Well, we're going over policies right now. So is this something that we still would want to be on this list, because this is something that we're doing? Ms. Fisher.
Yeah. Thank you. I would withdraw that request because we're in the process with Neola of doing that. So that can come off.
Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
We can go through the board topics parking lot. I'm looking at it. Yes. There is a requested date for those items. There's actually a column, so we can move that over to this list before sharing it with the board.
Yes, absolutely. And for the ones that have it, some of them did not.
Correct. Just let's bring the dates over for the ones that we do have.
Would you like to proceed in order down this list?
Actually, that was not the order of business today. The order of business was agreement to the concept of providing you a list of these set of topics, providing you an instrument with which to prioritize each one of them as individual board members. And I guess, Ken, what I think I'm hearing is potentially, and I don't know whether the matrix can hold this or not, but a fifth item to say we defer to the board member who brought it up. I'm hearing that as a potential that the individual who brought it up, is that still a matter for them? Or a space for them to enter into the matrix if they rate 360 evaluations, which I know the matter is technically closed. If that was brought up by Ms. Morgan at the time, Ms. Morgan could rate it as no longer necessary, and I was the member who brought it up.
Ms. Morgan?
So my comment is that it should be on. No? Okay. We had consensus on all of these.
Right, I just thought of that.
You're not on.
Okay, now, it's very hard for me to tell the difference, so you just have to. Yeah, I need a little thing. Yeah, we had consensus on this, so it really doesn't matter who brought it forward.
Okay.
Unless you're looking for an explanation of what it was because people have forgotten what it was, and the originator may be able to provide what it was.
And you're correct. I thought about that after I said that, because some of these have been quite a while. And things have changed since we've put them on and we have completed certain things, even though, and yes, we did have a consensus. That's why we wind up putting these on. So, Ms. Dupree-Bruno, how would we make these go away with that?
Madam Speaker, if I can, I don't, never mind. No. I'm confused because all we're asking for is, can we put these into a matrix, share them with the board, allow you to determine whether it's a priority or not, come back, we'll say yes, it is a priority, or no, it's not, based upon the board's input, and then from there we can schedule it based upon that prioritization. I just feel the necessity for this board. We're running out of time with the board as it's currently seated, and I would like to be able to prioritize for members the issues that they still want to have covered before any type of board changes occur.
I get that part, and I'm okay with that, but my question would still be, for those that we have already, even though we're prioritizing, for those that we have already, we're working on already, how do we just get rid of those?
We say that they're done.
With your permission. So that was the intent of being able to, if there were some evident ones that could be closed, that essentially the board, unfortunately, just with a spreadsheet, if it says it's still open and we may believe that we've already covered it, but at the same time, from a perception standpoint, maybe you don't feel that it's been sufficiently addressed, we would not want to close that out without, this is your work, these are things that you stay as a priority. So if there's anything that we could either defer to the superintendent, give him a chance to evaluate, that wouldn't necessarily have to be ranked. It could be removed. You could say, well, actually, like as you said, the example, the very first one, 5.2, this will be covered through Neola. We really don't necessarily need to rank this as a priority. That was part of the intention, was trying to whittle that list down. So instead of it being 14 items, maybe it's 10. And now we can really prioritize around the top 3 that we can schedule immediately and get those pending staff time. That was the intention in this exercise.
Got it. Thank you. I understand perfectly clear. Ms. Gittens and then Ms. Vaughn.
Okay, so Dr. Savage, can you look at Board Topics Parking Lot tab at the bottom?
Yes, ma'am.
And there are, I didn't count them up, but there's areas in green and in yellow. Are those topics that are priorities that, for whatever reason? That's my first question, then I have an additional one.
Yeah, so thank you for drawing attention to it. So when I first took over the spreadsheet, I was trying to look for areas that showed up in one list but were omitted in another. What I then tried to do is track them down to find out where were they in another list. And then I placed a comment where I found alignment where it showed up in 2 different lists, but one said it was completed, another said it was not. So the color corresponds to essentially where there was disagreement in the list, where one references that the item was completed, but maybe a date was never listed. Another, well, I found perfect alignment when they were green, there was no problem there. When it was yellow or red, there were concerns that either there wasn't, the protocols did not appear to be listed. Either there wasn't, it said it was completed, but there was no date as to when it was completed. What I wanted to do is preserve it for your knowledge, because I didn't want anyone to assume that just because it said it was completed, that I then assumed it was completed until we were able to verify that.
Okay, so based on your answer to that, what I would like to see is to sort this one, and you may have it as parking lot A or whatever, but to sort it by column A, so then we would see all of the ones that have some type of priority all together. The second part of my comment is, I agree with what the superintendent is saying. There are some things, and I can speak on the one for equity diversity with the FADS conference. That's been on there for quite some time, from 2/19/21, actually 2/9/21, and I was the one that put it on there. And if you're talking about who should be able to take it off, a board member makes a suggestion. In order for it to go on here, we had to have consensus. So consensus did not mean that everybody, thought of this. One person thought of it, everybody says, okay, yeah, go ahead and put it on, and it ended up on the list. So therefore, we should ask that original person, is that something that you still would like to keep on there? Since it was, like, this was my idea, and yes, I would like to keep it on there, and yes, in 80 days, I may not be here to participate in that, so I would like to have that moved up because of the priority of time. So that's my thing.
Okay, I'm going to go to Miss, and I still get what you're saying with this sheet. So Ms. Vaughn, and then Ms. Patrica. Ms. Fisher. And I'm sorry, Ms. Fisher.
I would like to see something clarified on here before we do the vote, or whatever you want to call it. I know.
Not a vote. Okay.
I know. It's not a vote. All right. Going down to, boy, I need to get my eyeglasses. Single member versus at-large representatives. That's down, was that 72? Okay. It says postpone. I brought this up because I was liaison to EDAC. This is one of their end of the year requests, and I brought it forward, and we had a discussion on it. And the reason that it says postpone, and I agreed with postpone, but at that time, and I'm pretty sure Mrs. Dupree-Bruno, because she has such a great memory, would remember a date. We had a very specific date that we had to talk about this by a certain time, because if we thought that we might want to, if as a board, and this will probably be something maybe the next board does, that this is something the board wants to do, to go to the single member districts as EDAC suggested, we had to make a decision by a certain date, because if we didn't, we wouldn't have enough time to go through all the steps, because this particular one then would involve, if the board decides they want to go with this, redistricting. And so, Mrs. Dupree-Bruno, I'm putting you on the spot. Did you have a date written down? Does anybody have the date? Because
through the chair, it wasn't specifically a date, it was a roadmap as to how we go from point A to point B and C. And we really, if the board was to consider this, January of 2023 is when we really needed to make some decisions.
Okay, so then, to finish my thought, instead of postpone before our, not a vote, but our preferences, I would like to see that there is a time specific where we would have to talk about this. So it would be January 2023. Does that make sense? Okay, that's my only comment, and I'm going to say this wasn't my own personal. This is something from EDAC, so I feel very strongly that we need to keep this on the list.
And as the new liaison, I will do that.
It was a recommendation.
Yes, that was their recommendation.
Ms. Fisher? Oh, sorry, Ms. Patrica. It's Ms. Patrica.
No, it's okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the list that I'm looking at, which is under the tab consolidated list, it says single member versus at-large representatives, and then it says consensus, address in January 2023. So it's on.
It's on here.
A different
That's
tab.
right. Yep.
It's on a different tab. It's under Ken's tab.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I tried to consolidate all of these from the different tabs under one area. So I also put filters so that it's easier to navigate per Ms. Gitten's request. It's very difficult when you have all the completed items and not completed items shaded out, and some parts were shaded, others weren't. So what I attempted to do here was put them all under one, and then you could very quickly see, you could filter it by anything you want. Its status, consensus, who requested it, all those things are there, but we're going to add, for the ones that were done, the date that it was entered into, so that we have a sense of how long it's been outstanding as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Oh, okay, well,
I'm sorry.
I'm glad Ms. Fisher pointed that out, because different tabs have different things.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And in conclusion, so looking at this list, in the interest of time, why don't we just go down the list and decide whether or not it's a priority? Because Dr. Savage already consolidated everything.
Well, I think that they really want to send this out so everybody has the opportunity to look at it and to make the decision, and then send it back to him.
Okay, my misunderstanding then.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Patrica?
Is this more complicated than what I'm receiving it to be? You're going to send us a form, we're going to fill it out, you're going to compile the data. From that data, you'll tell us what our priorities are as a board, and then you'll come back to us for approval, yes? Is that not what we're talking about? So going through the list and talking about these individual things is kind of like spinning our wheels?
Yeah.
So send us the link. I'm all for you sending us our link. We go back, we have 2-week deadline to get this done, and then you tell us, and then we reach consensus. Yes, no, maybe? Am I crazy?
We'll speak about it. We're not making consensus. We'll speak about it when it comes forward. Yes, so he's bringing it back. We will be filling it out and sending it back to Dr. Savage, and then it will be consolidated again, and it comes back.
And if I may add, I'm not sure that it remotely matters who brought it up, because if things have changed and consensus is no longer there, then it doesn't matter who brought it up. What matters is what the board, as a majority, prioritizes. So, am I seeing this wrong?
I still think that we have to take into consideration that if Ms. Patrica brought something up, and if she still feels, even though we may feel differently, but if you feel that this is something that you really want, it's really hard for us to say, we're not going to do it because Ms. Patrica wants to do it.
Yeah, but that will still be taken into consideration because I'm filling out the form.
Right.
So they're going to know that it's priority for me, but if it's not a priority for 6 other people, then...
But then we will have that conversation at that time, because we need to make sure that your voices are heard. Everybody has an opportunity. Ms. Fisher?
Yeah, so we have 14 things on the list.
Yeah.
My understanding was that we were scheduled, and it says right here, prioritize workshop topics. The time that we've just spent talking about the process, we could have done that already. I mean,
we couldn't have, because we never make.
And this is why I had said the first item on this list, we're already working on it. So that's kind of mute that it's even there.
It's not a priority anymore. It's being handled.
But I know that with Dr. Savage taking this over now, and trying to put everything together, this is how they're, and Dr. B, this is what you're trying to do as well, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Morgan, and then Ms. Gittens.
we are being managed so we are more effective and more efficient in our deliberation and use of time.
Thank you.
Ms. Gittens?
Okay, what I was trying to say is, what I have pulled up, first of all, under Ken Consolidated List does not look like Ken Consolidated List that you have on the screen. The one I have has, it starts out with policies and procedures, et cetera. So the one that we're able to pull up says that. Here's the bottom line. We already said policies and procedures are being done because we have Neola. So whatever that chunk of stuff is really can be postponed because it's already being done. And then if we look down at the other items, there's a conflict here, and I almost think we need to just wait and have you send us, so we're all on the same page and looking at the same report, because there's a little bit of a difference. And since we're not looking at the same one, I would suggest we...
Perhaps, Ms. Gittens, if I may, so everyone will have access to the same sheet as you always have. So this is your sheet, this is your work. You don't have the ability to comment or edit in any way only because of Sunshine. You don't have the ability to modify. You do have the ability to view. So we're all seeing the same thing.
But
at the same time,
right now seeing the same thing.
Well, so that's what I wanted to draw your attention to. So in this sheet, to try to make it simpler so that you don't just have to scroll the whole thing, what you have up here at the top are little filters. These are filters, these are sortables. The filter view allows you to filter it based on whatever criteria it's there. So what I have it right now filtered so that you wouldn't see any of the ones that are completed is items that were status to be, basically non-completed items. So items that were pending staff action, on hold, requiring consensus. That allows you to, instead of having to go through so many lines, you can just see the ones that you're interested in. It doesn't change the substance of what you're seeing. It just allows you to see only those things that you wanted to see. If at any time you didn't want to see that, then what I do and how the default setting is essentially having all of them selected so that you can see everything. But just based on your feedback as we were going through it, you said, I don't want to see the things, I don't have to scroll down 70 ways to see it. This was done to make it the form a little bit more user-friendly for folks, but that was the intention in the spreadsheet, was to do it that way, just so you'd have the ability to filter it, because you haven't had that ability before, and this allows you to do that and focus. The other issues you may want to see, what were the items I requested? Not because of any other reason other than just your interest of, oh yeah, I requested that 2 years ago. You could, based on the requested, you could filter by any one of those items. Again, nothing substantive, it doesn't change it, it just allows you to view the information, hopefully in a way that's easier to consume.
Okay, and I still say, for the sake of time, et cetera, that we just wait and you send us the format so we're all looking at the same one, and let us know in the email when you send it that you are looking at the format and the title of it, so we know we're on the right tab, the right page, and then we get back to you as you mentioned before.
Yeah, and thank you, and that's exactly what you're going to do, right? Just want to make sure. Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Savage. Appreciate that. Thank you, Dr. Bernier and Ms. Fisher.
Comment.
Ms. Dupree-Bruno?
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I ask Dr. Savage a question through the chair?
Yes, please.
Dr. Savage, the link that's going to be sent will be sent for each individual board member to complete individually, correct?
Yes, the link does not allow for any ability, it's a form. So you receive the same link, but the link does not allow you to get to, it's a form. So essentially it collects your information, it then puts it into a spreadsheet. You don't have the ability to see that. You don't have the ability to do anything other than complete your information. So it is a form. I just want to make sure I'm clear. It's not a link like this where you will type your information in and can see other responses or modify in any way. It is an individual form. Even though the link will look the same, it will populate your own individual information that we compile.
Dr. Savage, I just wanted to make sure, and I think you answered my next question, none of the board members will be able to see the responses from the others.
That is correct.
And this link will go, the answers will go directly to you, correct?
That is correct.
And then once that link is completed and you have the information, you will compile it, correct?
That is correct.
And then you will bring it to the board during a public meeting for them to evaluate and have the discussion regarding the outcome of this link in this form that they're completing.
Yes, ma'am, as well as that it becomes an artifact that reflects that prioritization activity, as we did with the CIP values activity and the superintendent selection process. It becomes an artifact that is available for us to have.
Great. Thank you again. So we will be moving on from this item then, and we will be receiving that shortly then, correct, Dr. Savage?
I'm going to send it today.
Thank you. So moving on to the next item is go to the order. Does Ms. Morgan, do you have anything for the good of the order?
I do not.
Okay, Ms. Vaughn?
I do not.
Ms. Gittens?
No, thank you.
Ms. Patrica?
I do not, thank you.
Ms. Fisher?
No, thank you.
I do not. Ms. Dupree-Bruno, do you have anything for good of the order?
I do not, thank you.
And Dr. Bernier, do you have anything?
You almost made it. I just think it's really important to have a couple of things occur in the community, and I know the board members and I have all been working through a number of individual situations regarding schools, but one in particular I think is worth mentioning here from the dais today, and then mentioning it as often as we can moving forward. I'm working with comms right now to get some more information out. There was an incident regarding a senior parking lot and the painting over a blue line. It had to do with permissions and other things, and clearly there could have been a lot of other ways to approach a situation other than what transpired, but that's what did transpire. I want it to be clear to the community and to our Facebook friends and other posts that in no way does the Lee County School District not support its law enforcement officers. We have a great relationship with our local chiefs. We have a great relationship with our local sheriff, and law enforcement is a critical component to our students' safety and their parents' and teachers' peace of mind regarding their work environment and the environment in which our young people go to school. So I just thought it was important to make mention from the dais tonight that we respect our law enforcement partners. We know that we need them as a critical friend and a critical component to our school safety, and we wanted to have the opportunity to address it here tonight.
Thank you. And Ms. Gittens did have something.
Okay, I have two quick things. Can we get a furry follow-up? And if that is something that we can receive, otherwise, email us or something to let us know. And then the fact that we have gone to over 100,000 students, and I'm just thinking, like, at some of our schools, they have the digital boards in front of the school. Have we ever thought about having something like that in front of the district to show just information like our students or something, just, basic, but to have it in front of the district? And I'm just throwing that out there, and we don't have to take time to discuss it now.
Seeing no other comments to come before this board, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you and have a great day. I'm sorry, Ms. Fisher.
I was just going to ask Ms. Gittens what she said about the update. I didn't hear what you said.
Ms. Gittens asked for an update on furries. How many?
Thank you very much, because
I know it's important. Well, I mean, people are asking about it. It's something we have to do. I know I've gotten questions about it.
This meeting.
Yep. But I don't want to see that drop, because that was like huge. Yeah,
I get it.
Appreciate